Good evening, everyone. I see a lot of new faces. I don't know if anyone is planning on talking at open public speaking time. There's a list up here with our city clerk, Ms. Medina, if you want to sign up to speak. And I'm waiting for Juan to put the light on. Okay. Thank you. Okay. Okay, we have some people. You don't have to write what you're talking about. You just have to write your name. Right, Madeline? Okay, everyone, we're going to get started. I apologize for the delay. We were just setting up for a presentation that we're going to have. So let's begin now. I would like to advise all those present that notice of this regular meeting of March 16, 2022 has provided with the public in accordance with the provisions of the Open Public Meeting Act of the State of New Jersey. Notice of time and place of this meeting has been included in the annual notice of meetings, which was posted and filed with the City Clerk in the Jersey Journal and the Star Ledger. An additional notice of the time and place was posted and filed with the City Clerk and forwarded to the Jersey Journal and the Star Ledger on March 14, 2022. The regular meeting of the Municipal Council of the City of Bayonne is now in session. Roll call, please, Ms. Medina.
Mr. Carroll?
Here.
Mr. Galais?
Here.
Mr. La Palusa?
Here.
Mr. Perez?
Here.
Ms. Nadrowski?
Here, please rise for the pledge.
Of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I just have a few announcements. First of all, I'd just like to wish everyone a happy Thanksgiving as I'm looking at the Shamrock. Happy St. Patty's Day. Tomorrow is St. Patty's Day. Our parade in Bayonne is Sunday. We haven't had one for 2 years, so we're all looking forward to that, so please join us. The weather's supposed to be nice. It kicks off at 5th Street at 1 o'clock. So everyone, please come out and celebrate. It's always good to have a happy occasion to get together. And we're going to start off tonight. I'd like to thank Camille High, one of a community advocate who's here tonight. She put together a candlelight vigil tonight on domestic violence in honor of Vanessa, a Bayonne resident, Noza, who was killed recently and left 2 small children behind. There's also a GoFundMe out there if people want to look it up to help her family. But then that brings me to, we're going to go a little bit out of order tonight. I have Margaret Abrams from Women Rising here. She's going to give a brief presentation on domestic violence and what her organization can do and does very well for the community. So I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Abrams.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for having me, all council members, council president. Thank you for this wonderful invite. So I'm Margaret Abrams. I am actually the Domestic Violence Response Team Coordinator of Hudson County. So what that entails is that I supervise and oversee volunteers, civilian volunteers that respond to the police departments and do crisis intervention with victims of domestic violence. So they're basically, they set them up with safety planning, the resources that are available in the community, inform them of their legal rights, and help them to basically get through the first 48 hours. I'm very proud to announce as well that we have a new program that is going to be part of the Domestic Violence Response Team, but we'll get through a little bit of that in the presentation. So Women Rising, who are we? We've been in existence for 116 years now, so when people say they haven't heard of us, you know, it still surprises me. We're formerly the YWCA, but we're the foremost community-based organization for women and their families, basically to help them to become self-sufficient. So how we do that is through social services, economic development, and our advocacy services. We're almost kind of like a one-stop shop. So if we don't have the service available for whatever that client's needs are, you know, we have the connections and the collaborations in the community to meet their needs. So Women Rising meets the client's needs by providing supportive counseling and crisis intervention, workforce development, job placement, and shelter for victims of domestic violence. We also do outreach, advocacy, and referrals. All of Women Rising services are all free and confidential. So on average, actually, these numbers changed a bit. So Women Rising's accomplishments on average, they're averaging about 15,000 individuals receive services yearly. 3,600 individuals had received immediate assistance, and what that means is that they walked in off the street and sought out services, and they were given the services. 1,500 women and their families received counseling. 1,200 women received legal option consultations. 170 women and children were provided with safe house placement. 350 domestic violence response team callouts were responded to. There were 100 community ed sessions, which resulted in thousands of participants, and there were 150 individuals that received job placement. Sharon, you could go past that because I already spoke about that. Okay, so the Domestic Violence Strangulation Response Team, this was just newly formed. We actually just started in January. So it's the prosecutor's office developed the team, and what it is comprised of is the forensic nurse examiner, law enforcement officer, and a domestic violence response team member. So what they do is they respond to hospitals. My DVRT volunteers, they don't respond to hospitals, they only respond to the police stations. So this is going to be a specialized team from my response team, so there's going to be additional trainings required so that they can respond to hospitals, because we know that a victim of domestic violence that has endured non-fatal strangulation, they're 800 times more likely to result in a homicide. Victims of domestic violence, they don't realize, it's just choking, there's no marks, they don't believe that it's severe. But there are a lot of complications that can arise even months later. Strokes have occurred in survivors of domestic violence months later as a result of the strangulation. So for those that believe that domestic violence doesn't happen in their community, some of the statistics are 1 in 4 women, 1 in 7 men have been victims of severe physical violence. So for those that, so many people believe that, oh, it's just a woman's issue. It isn't a women's issue. It's anybody's issue, okay, women and men. Men, they have greater barriers to overcome. 1 in 7 women and 1 in 18 men have been stalked. 1 in 4 victims of domestic violence are gay, lesbian, bisexual, transgender, or intersex. On average, 3 women are killed by a current or former intimate partner each day, and more than 15 million children witness domestic violence each year. Approximately 63% of the homeless women have experienced domestic violence, and domestic violence costs more than $38 billion, it's about $40 billion a year in police involvement, legal work, medical and mental health treatment, and lost productivity at the companies. So when people say this doesn't affect me, it does affect you. It affects where you're working. If people are taking off because they were beaten the night before, that work's going to get passed down. So it does affect you. So what is domestic violence? Domestic violence, it's a pattern of abusive behavior. It's not, and I'm not minimizing abuse, but it's not just that one-time explosion. It's a pattern of abusive behavior in which one person gains and maintains power and control. And if you get anything out of this tonight, to really truly understand that it can be anyone. Anyone could be a victim survivor. Anyone could be an abuser. It has nothing to do about the size of a person, who's the stronger one in the relationship. It has to completely do with one person gaining and maintaining power and control over that other person. And how it is that they do that are through various different tactics. So some of the forms of abuse that they endure, so many people in the community, you recognize the physical abuse. You know that's taking place because you could see, the broken bones and the black eyes and busted lips. But there's so much more to domestic violence than just the physical form. And there's emotional and psychological and verbal abuse. And we know with the verbal, the psychological, and emotional abuse is it's just as damaging, if not more damaging, than the physical abuse, because it breaks down that one's self-esteem. Over a period of time, they begin to believe everything that has been said about them is true. You're fat, you're ugly, nobody's going to want you. You can't make it on your own. There's cultural abuse and spiritual abuse, economic abuse, sexual abuse. People believe that because they're in a relationship or they're married that, all bets are off. If you could say no, but nobody's going to take that seriously because, you're married to that person, you're in that relationship. Digital abuse, a huge issue these days, child abuse and animal abuse. And I say child abuse and animal abuse, I don't mean as in neglecting the children or neglecting the animals. I'm saying using those, the children and the animals, as a kind of a way to get that person to do whatever it is to control that other person. So to get into the victimology, many community members really don't get it, is that, well, if it's so bad, why aren't they just leaving? If it's so, they can't endure this abuse no more, they should just leave and go out. When this abuser introduced themselves to this person, they didn't introduce themselves and say, hey, I'm going to make your life miserable. They introduced themselves as this knight in shining armor or the queen on the throne. They were going to rescue them, take them out of a bad situation. As I stated earlier, domestic violence, it's a learned behavior. So children that are being raised in homes where there's domestic violence, they're learning that that's acceptable behavior. So it's generational and it's going into the next generation. So they already saw the domestic violence. They have already experienced it while they were growing up. Maybe they're currently enduring it at home, and now this person comes along and is taking them out of it. They genuinely stay because they love this person. When things are good, they're really good. But when they're horrible, they're horrific. So they hold on to that hope that things are going to change, that it's going to go back the way it used to be. They fear this person. So many of our clients, they leave and they have this genuine fear. What's going to happen when this person finds them? Because they know chances of that person finding them are great. They're ashamed. They couldn't keep that relationship together. Why couldn't they? Here they're out in the community and they're, very strong, empowered people, and then people are going to look at them and say, how is it that you were abused? They're concerned, genuinely concerned for that abuser. And some people, many people have a big issue with that, but, we've had clients come through DVRT that they would say, how do I bail this person out? And we're there to empower victims of domestic violence. So we're there to offer that information and let them make the best decision for their own life. They know what's best for them. So we're going to give them the resources, and we give them the resources, and we tell them how to bail the person out. If we're going to sit there and say, this is what you need to do, we're doing the same thing that the abuser's doing. We're telling them. We want them to understand that they have their own life to live, and there are options. The faith, the children, they stay because of the low self-esteem. They self-blame themselves. If I had only done this, it wouldn't have caused the abuser to do that, not holding the abuser accountable. Financial stability, they're completely dependent upon this person financially. Their social status, when they're in this relationship, they're somebody. If they leave this relationship, who are they going to be? They're going to be a nobody. The fear of being outed, huge concern in the LGBTQ plus community is because maybe they didn't share anything with their family members or friends or co-workers, and they don't have to. That's their own personal business. And then if you end this relationship with me, that's it, I'm going to out you. So they'll stay for those reasons. The fear of being deported, huge concern in Hudson County. And we really can't guarantee because we don't know all the, one day from the next. But we do, and I will say this, Women Rising, we do have the services available to assist in those issues. The fear of not being believed. Abusers don't come with signs that say, I'm an abuser. We could look at somebody and they could be like the scariest, toughest looking person, and, they're so genuinely sweet and they're great, kind people. Well, it's the same thing with abusers. When they're out in the community, they're helping their community. They're the soccer coaches, cheerleading moms, they're the firemen and police officers, and they're community members. What happens behind closed doors, you don't know, so we can't pick them out. So now you're going to go out and you're going to tell somebody, well, this abuse is taking place. Are you going to be believed, Being dependent, and when I say dependent, it's physically being dependent upon somebody. So people with disabilities, not having the ability to take care of themselves, so now this person is taking care of them. Well, now if they end this relationship, what's going to happen? Who's going to care for them? If the next caretaker they got, maybe the abuse is going to be even worse. The physically no ability to escape the situation. And in Bayonne, I actually had two cases that took months but we were able to actually finally get that victim free from their home. No support system. What happens, we know statistically 7 to 11 times it takes a victim survivor to leave the home, whether it's restraining orders, going to a friend's home, family member's home, physically ending the relationship, but they're going to keep returning back 7 to 11 times. So eventually what happens is family members, friends turn around and say, you know what, that's it, I'm done. It mustn't be that bad because you keep returning back. So they shut that door. That's the worst possible thing that you could do to a victim survivor of domestic violence is close that door, because what you're doing is you're telling them exactly what this abuser told them, that no one is going to be there for you like I will. So if anything, just keep that conversation going. Women Rising is there, the hotline is there, because we know that the caregiver needs support too. So when you're getting drained and when you need your cup refilled, you're going to call Women Rising, you're going to ask to speak to somebody too. And the justice system failed them. And so often, you know, they'll go in front of the judge and they have all the proof and the judge will say, no, I'm sorry, I'm not going to grant the final restraining order. So what happens is when they walk outside the door, the abuser turns around and says, see, the judge didn't even believe you. And then the next time the abuse occurs, that victim survivor is not going to speak up, not going to call the cops, not going to go for the restraining orders. So what is it we could do as a community? And these are just like really small little steps, but could have such a huge impact on the community. So just posters visible within the community, within the city buildings, establishments selling alcohol, to have that placed in the bathrooms, maybe little cards that victims could take from the bathroom. And I'm not saying just the female's bathroom, male's bathroom as well. The schools, you know, have that visible. Houses of worship, billboards, to develop and host a domestic violence text line so that people could report anonymously. Because a lot of community members, they'll hear the screams and they'll hear the cries and the pleads for help, but they're like, I don't want to get involved because my name's going to get dragged into it. When you call the police, they want to know, are there weapons involved? Blah, 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 blah. And all along, this person is being abused. So to have a text line that's anonymous reporting, community ed sessions are so important. Like, I could have got up here, they could have just allowed me 5 minutes and I could have just said, hi, I'm from Women Rising, that's it. But they gave me the opportunity to educate some people. Training the EMTs and the dispatchers and all city workers. I'm actually a cut-it-out trainer, and what the cut-it-out trainers do is they go into salons and they go into barbershops, because guess what? Victims are going to go into their establishments, and that's where conversations are going to be taking place. So you want these people educated and having the information and knowledge in order to assist that person right there. And the most, I believe, this is Margaret Abrams' belief, is the most important thing is educating our youth. Out of 11 million women and 5 million men who reported experiencing sexual violence, physical violence, stalking by an intimate partner in their lifetime, said they first experienced these forms of violence before the age of 18. That's our youth. We have to be reaching them. We have to be educating them. We have to be supporting them. 1 in 3 teens is a survivor of teen dating violence. Females between the ages of 16 and 24, the statistics were just released, another study, and it says now 12 to 24 experience the highest rate of abuse. 1 in 4 females in a relationship were pressured into having sex. 33% of teens in an abusive relationship never told anyone about the abuse. And this is probably the most important one. 86% of them said they would tell a friend rather than an adult. So we need to be in those schools. We need to be educating those youth, because we know those victims are going to go to their peers. And we want to equip those peers with that information so that they know how to handle it and they know, who to refer them to. So everyone knows someone. Offer Women Rising's hotline, 24/7 available. Listen to them attentively. Don't try and nix it off. Don't overlook it. It's not a big deal. Don't minimize it. Listen attentively. Keep the communication available. Don't shut that door on them. Believe what they're saying. What happens with survivors of domestic violence is that things are scrambled. You have to understand that living in that abusive environment, in that abusive relationship, their main goal in that day is just to survive. So they're going to do whatever it takes to survive. They're not checking the clock saying, well, at 2 o'clock I got slapped, at 5 o'clock I made dinner. So they might say, I made dinner and then this happened, and it might be all scrambled. That's okay. You're going to be non-judgmental. You're just going to be that listening ear and get that information and resource to that person. Respect every decision. And that's probably one of the hardest for family members and friends, because 7 to 11 times they're going to continue to return back. 7 to 11 times you're still going to offer those same resources. You're still going to be that support system. Victims of domestic violence know when it's time for them to get out, and they will get out. They will get out. We just hope it's before such tragedy like this had happened in Bayonne, But again, getting the resources to them, letting them know that there is a community that is supporting them, that it's a community that says we're not going to deal with domestic violence. Never discourage them. Never say, well, if you leave, you're not going to be able to live this kind of lifestyle, or, always encourage them. Tell them that it's not their fault. They don't deserve the abuse, that they do deserve a better life. Be attentive to their triggers and flashbacks and panic attacks. And it could be something as simple as, a perfume, a cologne. It could be, slapping the hand down on a table. Just maybe you get upset and you just can't believe it, and it triggers them. And again, like I mentioned before, caregivers, call Women Rising, because we know that you need the assistance to get through it too. I do this every single day, and probably on a yearly basis, I do probably about 400 to 500 different victims. And it does. It becomes draining at times. It's tough. So I know, just being a caregiver, it's just as tough, the same with me. And I have to talk to people about my stuff as well. So we just want you to know that we're there for you too. And that's Women Rising's number, and I believe the website. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay. Thank you again for that presentation. This is Women's History Month, so, we always want to celebrate women, but we also must remember that the challenges that they face also, we can't celebrate them and ignore the challenges that still exist, and we all need to do a better job at empowering women, supporting women, and lifting each other up. So thank you again. And at this time, we have an ordinance that goes along with supporting domestic violence, so I'm going to ask our city clerk, Ms. Medina, to pull that up, and we're going to take that out of order.
Okay, this is coming out of the consent resolutions, which is CR 20. It is moved by the council as a whole, supporting educational interventions and outreach programs to combat the issue of domestic violence and authorizing the funding under the American Rescue Plan Act. And since it's moved by the council as a whole, on that resolution, Mr. Carroll.
Aye.
Mr. Galais.
Aye.
Mr. La Palusa.
Very happy to support this, aye.
Mr. Perez.
Aye.
Ms. Nadrowski.
This is just a start, I'd like to say. We're committing $25,000. That's just a start, and I hope the program's so successful that we need to increase that in the next several months. So I vote aye.
Moving to our regular agenda, it is a resolution postponing the final passage of an ordinance entitled, an ordinance of the City of Bayonne in the County of Hudson, New Jersey, approving the form and authorizing the execution and delivery of a lease purchase agreement with the Hudson County Improvement Authority relating to the issuance of up to $95 million aggregate principal amount of the authority's guaranteed lease revenue bonds, and any notes issued in anticipation thereof by the Hudson County Improvement Authority. It is moving final passage to the meeting of April 21st. Mr. Carroll, you moved it. Mr. Perez, will you second?
Second.
On that resolution, Mr. Carroll.
Aye.
Mr. Galais.
Aye.
Mr. La Palusa?
Aye.
Mr. Perez?
Aye.
Ms. Nadrowski?
No.
OR202 is same thing. It's postponing the final passage of an ordinance entitled, an ordinance of the City of Bayonne, State of New Jersey, authorizing the guarantee of the payment of the principal of and interest of not exceeding $95 million aggregate principal amount of the city's guaranteed lease revenue bonds. It's also moving it to the meeting of April 20th. It's moved by Councilmember Carroll. Mr. Perez, will you second?
We have a
Second.
comment on it.
Sure.
We'll allow it since it's been carried for a year, over a year now.
See if we can get there. Cool. Peter Franco, 109 West 53rd Street. So I wanted to speak on this. I know this is being postponed. We've been doing this for over a year. I'm not quite sure if the public understands or is closely monitoring this as much as they should. This ordinance would put taxpayers on the hook for $95 million in a bond, and it's deserving of a lot of attention. This was first introduced back on
February,
April.
April.
This was first introduced back in May 12th of 2021. Ironically, the same month, Mayor Davis took a donation from BMC LLC, the company vying to run the hospital. It's $2,600 from the president of BMC LLC, and it lists him as a businessman and self-employed. For almost a year now, this ordinance has sat on the agenda month after month, and it just gets postponed, like exactly tonight. In order for this to pass, it would need a supermajority in favor. The council president has repeatedly voted no. Councilman Galais has repeatedly abstained for conflict of interest. And despite not having the votes to pass it, the ordinance just gets carried over and over. It's obvious the mayor wants this, despite not explaining to the public why this would benefit Bayonne or how this would benefit Bayonne. Then again, if he did mention anything, no one knows if it's actually telling the truth. It's obvious, much like the thousands of dollars he's received from United Water and Suez, I'm certain the mayor won't have any recollection of receiving this donation either. Be it as it may, Councilman La Palusa, you along with Councilmember Juan Perez and Councilmember Neil Carroll have had multiple opportunities to defeat this ordinance. You haven't, and I'm curious as to why. I'd be willing to make a claim that should the mayor get another seat on the city council, and if he is reelected, he's going to make this priority number one. You had a chance to kill it, but you've passed the buck for a year. So are you in favor of it? Because to me, that's the impression that I'm getting, that you're in favor of this $95 million bond. You just don't have the votes now, but maybe in June you might. Would you care to comment on that? So I guess we have to wait until after the election to figure out where you support.
Council President, do you have control of this meeting? Is he
I
allowed
do,
to?
he's asking you a
He's
question.
allowed
It's an
to
ordinance.
direct?
It's an ordinance. It's an
He's allowed to
ordinance.
direct the question to me? Okay.
Yeah.
We've been waiting for the State Local Finance Board to make some decisions on this, and that's what we're waiting for.
I just, it's just a simple answer, Councilman, whether or not you support this. I mean, you've pushed this off, you're saying it's the state. I think the public kind of deserves. I mean, you've been in office almost 20 years. You know the routine of this stuff. I just feel like are you for it or are you against it? By passing the buck, what it's telling me is that you're for this, and I think the voters should know before the election, so.
Once again, your facts are wrong. I've been in office for 12 years, and you keep putting it out that it's 16 years. Now you're saying 20 years. Get your facts straight. I gave you my answer.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Yes,
Mr.
Mr.
Solari.
Solari on the end, just because it's easier.
David Solari, 16 Colonial Drive. Gary, you're absolutely right. You were in there for 12 years, and 12 years of doing nothing in the Third Ward, so thank you for that. But to get back to this ordinance, all right, it's been back and forth, 1, 2, 3. So Mo, Larry, and Curly, maybe, So, like Peter said, you could actually kill this. Now, you're putting this off till next month. Does that mean next month we're going to have a chance to vote on this? Or is this going to be, I'm going to come out here again and find out it's not going to be on it again? Council President, can you?
This is, well, no, I mean, don't know how they're going to vote next month, but based on how the vote went the last 12 months at that point. They voted no every single month. They vote to carry it. They refuse to vote on it. I don't anticipate a change next month,
Well-
because I don't anticipate that local finance is going to get back to us. But I'm not really sure why we should be making the decisions for Bayonne.
The law director, how long does it take for the finance to come up with an answer on this? I have no idea. I never saw something go so long.
It's the state of New Jersey. The state of New Jersey will get to it when they get to it. And I think they're waiting to
For
get
us.
more information, and when that decision's made, it'll force the hand here.
But can they still put a nix to this without without the finance?
Sorry?
Can they can they just like put a nix to all this whole
So-
thing
If they decide that
without the finance?
They could knock it out. The local finance board could knock it out.
Okay,
No,
so,
we can. His question was, can we?
Yeah.
We can, the city council has the right to vote this down without any approvals for we do not need to wait for local finance to vote no on this.
well,
That-
then, you know, it's like...
I thought that was the question you asked, right?
Yes. It's like putting a bet in, you know, and it's a 3.5 spread, and you lose by that half. And that's what we're doing here, because we're playing games, like Peter just said, all right? You guys are all hoping to get all back in, and plus one more person to pass that. Why would you guys want to pass a $95 million budget there for them? We're going to pay for it as the taxpayers. We're paying for that. You know, I know you don't care, Mr. Carroll, because you really don't care, because you've been lying to everybody since you've been in here. So, and Mr. Perez, you don't even know if you're coming or going, so, you know.
Okay, do we just stay on
But
tax?
I just want,
Please,
I
just
just
stay on
want
tax.
to, I just want to say that we should come to a vote with this next month, because it's just going to keep going on until what happens. And I don't think we should give the mayor his chance of this. That's it. You guys had a year. Come on, Gary, you know that. You know the game. 12 years you've been in this game. All right? 12 years. And the FBI hasn't come yet to you yet, because you've been going and sending them to everybody else's house. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes.
Good evening. Pat Desmond, 131 West 4th. I was here 2 months ago over the same subject, and I asked, through you to Gary, I asked if any of you have called the local finance board and asked them what's the holdup. I mean, why are we waiting for them to come to us? We should be going to them and saying, what the hell's going on here?
Right. I did not get an answer from that. I contacted the state assemblyman and did not get an answer.
Nobody else tried? No? Yeah, have you tried to call them and get an answer from them? Yeah. Well, maybe you should. I mean, why are we waiting for them? It's been on for a year. It's going on and on and on. Somebody needs to do something here. You know what you think? I mean, there's nothing being done. You're going to wait till after the election and then try to jam it down people's throat? This guy defaulted on his payments, couldn't make his payments, and why do you think us get bonding for $95 million, why do you think he's going to make his payments then? It's not going to happen. The taxpayers are going to get stuck paying for it. And that's exactly what's going to happen. And I think you all know that. So why would you even consider this? It's not a good deal, not for us. And it's about time you start listening to us, because we're the ones that put you on the seats. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? Yes. Oh, you got a comment on this, Cheryl, though? On the hospital? We're talking about the hospital, no? Okay.
Okay. If there's no one else on that resolution, Mr. Carroll.
Aye.
Oh,
you have a
wait, we
que-
have
okay,
one more?
one more.
Good evening, Mike Morris, 123 Avenue C, Bayonne. What the public isn't aware of is that if we lose the hospital in Bayonne, there are going to be very serious repercussions within this town. The tax rates are going to rise, your insurance rates on your homes are going to rise, there are going to be layoffs in police and fire departments, we are going to be considered a very high risk to any insurance company. So either way, we're going to pay for it. There's too much outside influence on this whole deal that people aren't aware of. And the bottom line of it all is that it really needs to be remediated in a very non-political arena. So hopefully, it'll be resolved soon. But without a hospital in Bayonne, we're going to be in big trouble, especially if someone has a heart attack. That's the golden hour. You have to hope and pray that they'll either make it over the bridge to Beth Israel in Newark or to the medical center. The bottom line of it all is, and I can tell you, medical center is looking to expand because there's just so much activity there. There is a good possibility that we might lose this hospital, but I'm not for it. So hopefully you people will resolve it.
I couldn't agree with you more, Mike. This council, we are all committed to ensuring there's a hospital here and a full acute care hospital in Bayonne at all times. We have taken measures. We have changed the zoning that the hospital can only be, it's a hospital zone that was created, so the only thing that could ever go there is a hospital. I do not believe, and the feedback we got from all the hospital operators, there's no danger of losing the hospital. We have people fighting over running the hospital, so I don't really think we're in danger of losing. We have 2 operators currently fighting to get control to run the hospital. So I don't want to be a fearmonger and get people think that the Bayonne Hospital is closing, because we've had assurances from 2 operators that they want to operate it and the hospital is not going anywhere. And I couldn't agree with you more that this is a non-political issue and should be resolved by the 2 private entities that are fighting over it for profit. So I agree 100% with you that you're right, this is not a political issue. It shouldn't even be on our agenda. It should be handled between the 2 private companies that are fighting over a piece of land that is not owned by the city, should not be a burden on the taxpayers, and there are 2 companies that want to run it. So we are not in danger of losing a hospital. Like you said, Jersey City Medical Center is thinking about expanding because hospitals are very busy now. The pandemic has breathe a life into hospitals, and they're becoming very profitable again. That's why people now are fighting over. So there is no danger of losing the hospital, right? And additionally, especially after the pandemic, the only people that can close a hospital would be the state health. And they will not allow a hospital closed, especially after the pandemic. So I don't want you to make a statement that we're in danger of losing the hospital, because the likelihood of that is very, very, very low, because the state is the only one that could allow a hospital to close. And after the pandemic, I don't see it. And more importantly, there are 2 operators who want to operate and are competing with each other, fighting with each other, and where somehow a governmental agency is involved in the middle of a private 2 big companies with a lot of money are putting us in the middle of that for $95 million when both of them have plenty of money of their own. So I'm not really sure why. I agree with you 100%. It should not be in the political arena. This should be out of the political arena and in a private court of law with them fighting it out in a mediation between 2 companies. So yes, but I just want to go on the record as saying that piece of property is deemed as a hospital zone, and there can be nothing else there but a hospital. So for people saying that it's going to close and become something else, zoning will not allow it, and neither would the state hospital board.
Well, then, in good business sense, this seems like a temporary float of money for this bond. So if it were to be passed, and there's so much competition out there wanting that hospital, and they're able to afford it, they should be able to pay the bond back quickly.
But why
with
would we
interest to the
bond?
city.
Why would we lend somebody money to buy a business?
Well,
They
were looking to float a bond. Am I correct in saying that?
No, we're looking for eminent domain. We're looking to float a bond so we can eminent domain a hospital.
That wasn't mentioned in the
Oh,
ordinance.
yes, it is. That's what it is. It's an eminent.
In reality, it might be, but it was not mentioned in
No, it
the
is.
paperwork.
It is.
All along, it's been
It's been
to
an eminent
take the
domain.
property itself.
It's to
the
eminent
property
domain.
improvements.
Okay.
It is to bond so we can eminent domain the hospital to give it to somebody else to run a hospital. So we're eminent domain a hospital to make it a hospital.
And in reality, they would pay the money back. Am I correct in saying that?
Well, we don't know that. That's part of it.
If it were
yes.
to pass?
Well, that remains to be seen.
Okay. Thank you.
Mr. Morris, I appreciate your comments. I voted already. But you hit on the topic, which is what makes sense, not just fiscally or business-wise, but we are the guardians of the city, for better or worse, according to those that may come up here and speak. But it behooves us to keep every option available, no matter what that option may be, in order to ensure the public safety, especially when it comes to a hospital. As many people that have come and spoken against it have come and spoken for it, and have either had the heart attack that you're talking about, or have had a loved one like myself who've had it and survived because they had the ability to get to a hospital in their own city. So I don't know why we need to villainize this issue, but this is a very key matter to the heart of the well-being of the city, and I don't mind spending the time to look at it.
And on the resolution,
Can we ask you not to speak unless you're at a mic? Thank you.
Mr. Galais?
Yeah.
I'm not voting on that.
You abstaining? Mr. La Palusa?
Aye.
Mr. Perez?
Aye.
Ms. Nadrowski?
No.
03 is an ordinance of the City of Bayonne, County of Hudson, New Jersey, adopting the redevelopment plan titled Gamal Group East Redevelopment Plan for the property identified as Block 361, Lot 12, and Block 362, Lot 3, as shown on the official tax map of the City of Bayonne, pursuant to the local redevelopment and housing law. It was introduced and passed the first reading at the meeting.
Council President, if I may.
No, you may not. Sorry. Can you finish, Madam?
I'm sorry.
The meeting held December 15, 2021, was published in the Jersey Journal and posted on the bulletin board as required by law, with notice that it would be further considered for final passage following a public hearing at the meeting of January 19th, where a second reading and public hearing was postponed to the meeting of February 16th and was postponed at the meeting to this meeting of March 16th, and is now before the council for its consideration and a public hearing.
And Ms. Medina, before you go any further, I'd just like to make a comment on this. We postponed this because we were going to have a public hearing on this to let the public talk, because this has never been a public hearing on this plan that is before us. There was one on another one that the council here rejected, and the council put forth this plan, but has never been heard at a public hearing with public comment or before the planning board. It was again postponed because of the planning board was canceled because of the lack of a quorum. So it has postponed multiple times. So I'd just like to be on the record saying that there has been no public input at all on this meeting, on this particular plan that's put forth. So I'm just going to go right now that I don't understand how we can vote on a project that is expanding it from what was originally approved to a larger project without public input. So I would not be in favor of it, but you can continue.
Are you, then I'll take a resolution to postpone.
No, I'm not asking for that. I'm just giving my statement.
May I just speak to address it, Council President?
Sure.
Yeah, and I'm just here to speak to the matter. You are correct. This was a plan and an ordinance that were originally introduced for the second board meeting in a row. There wasn't a quorum at the March meeting, so there wasn't an opportunity for public review. There is a request to carry this to allow for that planning board review for those benefit of those in the public. Anytime there's an ordinance introducing a zoning ordinance or a redevelopment plan, the planning board does have a role in that, and that they do a review for consistency with the master plan, as well as any recommendations that the planning board may have at that planning board meeting. The city planner, in this case, Ms. Mack, would make a presentation to the planning board. They would make that recommendation. That hasn't happened yet. I would say the council is authorized, because more than 45 days have elapsed to proceed, but the typical procedure would be to have that opportunity for a full review, presentation by the planning board, opportunity for the public to speak at that level, as well as being able to come back when this is rescheduled for a second reading, and there's this public hearing by the council members, and the public can speak in that forum as well.
Thank you. And by the way, for those of you that don't know, That's John Wichiscalo, our redevelopment attorney here in town, so he's speaking as an expert on our redevelopment projects. The voice from the sky.
Yes, thank you.
So who would like to make a motion to postpone pending planning board?
So move.
Second.
And on the motion to postpone to April 20th, Mr. Carroll.
In the hopes that there will actually be a planning board meeting in the future, yes, I vote aye.
Mr. Galais?
Aye.
Mr. La Palusa?
I'm not sure of how I should do the things, so I think I'm just going to recuse myself from this.
Mr. Perez?
I feel like Neil Carroll, Councilman Carroll, that we'll wait for the planning board. I'd like to have a hearing planning board. I hope there's a quorum this time. I vote aye.
Ms. Nadrowski?
Of course, I'm a firm believer that the public should always have a say in developments before they happen, and I vote aye until we have a public hearing.
4 is an ordinance of the City of Bayonne, County of Hudson, State of New Jersey, approving and authorizing the execution of a reimbursement agreement by and between the City of Bayonne and 6 Commerce Street, Urban Renewal LLC, which was introduced and passed the first reading at the meeting held January 19th, was published in the Jersey Journal and posted on the bulletin board as required by law, with notice that it would be further considered for final passage following a public hearing at the meeting of February 16th. Where second reading and public hearing was postponed to this meeting of March 16th, it is now before the council for its consideration and a public hearing. And the resolution giving the ordinance second reading is moved by Councilmember La Palusa. Mr. Perez, will you second?
Second.
Council President, may I?
There you go.
Yes.
This particular ordinance, as well as ordinance 05, I'll just mention it now, are both being requested for adjournment. They were adjourned at the last meeting. This does involve a reimbursement agreement in conjunction with a redevelopment project whereby the developer is undertaking some improvements that evidently go above and beyond and would benefit other property in the area, as well as benefit the City of Bayonne. Our engineers are still looking at the benefits on this, so we're recommending adjournment of 04, and when 05 comes up, it'll be the same.
Who would like to move to postpone it?
I think Juan did. Juan, did you?
Mr.
Did you move
Perez?
it?
I moved.
You're moving to postpone?
Move it.
Second.
And on the motion to postpone, Mr. Carroll?
Aye.
Mr. Galais?
Aye.
Mr. La Palusa?
Aye.
Mr. Perez?
Aye.
Ms. Nadrowski?
Aye.
05, may I have a motion to postpone to the April 20th meeting?
Move.
Second.
And on the motion to postpone, Mr. Carroll?
Aye.
Mr. Galais?
Aye.
Mr. La Palusa?
Aye.
Mr. Perez?
Aye.
Ms. Nadrowski?
Aye.
06 is an ordinance of the City of Bayonne, County of Hudson, State of New Jersey, approving a financial agreement by and between the City of Bayonne and 22nd Street Partners Urban Renewal LLC for the property located at 25 East 22nd Street, which is identified as Block 206, Lot 1.01, as shown on the official tax map of the City of Bayonne. This, too, was introduced at the meeting of January 19th, was published in the Jersey Journal and posted on the bulletin board as required by law, with notice that it would be further considered for final passage following a public hearing at the meeting of February 16th, where second reading and public hearing was postponed to this meeting of March 16th. It is now before the council for its consideration and a public hearing. And resolution moved by the council president giving the ordinance second reading. Mr. Perez, will you second?
Second.
And on the resolution, Mr. Carroll.
Aye.
Mr. Galais.
Aye.
Mr. La Palusa.
No.
Mr. Perez.
Aye.
Ms. Nadrowski.
Aye.
Second reading is by title, an ordinance of the City of Bayonne, County of Hudson, State of New Jersey, approving a financial agreement by and between the City of Bayonne and 22nd Street Partners Urban Renewal LLC for the property located at 25 East 22nd Street, which property is identified as Block 206, Lot 1.01, as shown on the official tax map of the City of Bayonne. The council is now ready to give all persons interested in this ordinance an opportunity to be heard concerning it. The council president will recognize anyone who wishes to speak. Are there any hands raised online? I don't even know whether he's there. No protest against, objections to, or statements in favor of this ordinance or its passage has been filed with me. May I have a motion to close?
So moved.
Second.
And on the motion to close, Mr. Carroll.
Aye.
Mr. Galais.
Aye.
Mr. La Palusa?
No.
Mr. Perez?
Aye.
Ms. Nadrowski?
Aye.
And a resolution ordering final passage.
Move.
Second.
And on the resolution for final passage, Mr. Carroll.
No.
Mr. Galais.
Aye.
Mr. La Palusa?
No. Staying consistent, no.
Mr. Perez?
Aye.
Ms. Nadrowski?
I'd just like to say on this is, for the public's benefit, this is Mark Carmel, and although, we just were to talk about this, I had a community meeting and met with people 3 weeks ago about this project, and the developer came and spoke to the residents in the neighborhood. They were very satisfied with it. This is a project that is not going to knock any development down. It's going to rehab an existing building, and the integrity of the neighborhood will stay the same. And people who went to Mark Carmel School, 10 years from now when you're walking by, it'll still look like Mark Carmel School. And based on the input I got from the community, who were very grateful for the developer speaking, they were in favor of this, so I will also vote aye in favor of it.
Okay, ordinance passed. 07 is an ordinance of the City of Bayonne, County of Hudson, State of New Jersey, approving a financial agreement by and between the City of Bayonne and Avenue E Developers AMS Urban Renewal LLC for the property located at 132 and 140 Avenue E, which is identified as Block 458, Lot 1.01, and Block 467, Lot 23, as shown on the official tax map of the city. It was introduced at the meeting January 19th, was published in the Jersey Journal and posted on the bulletin board as required by law, with notice that it would be further considered for final passage following a public hearing at the meeting of February 16, where second reading and public hearing was postponed to this meeting of March 16, and is now before the council for its consideration and a public hearing. And a resolution moved by Councilmember Perez, given the ordinance second reading. Mr. Galais, will you second?
Council President, if I may.
She may. No, before I let him talk before this.
The developer, with respect to ordinance 07, has requested that consideration be adjourned. And just so I don't interrupt again, the same requests have been made with respect to 08 and 09, which are the remaining financial agreements on this evening.
With that being said, Mr. Perez, would you like to move to postpone to April 20th?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
And on the postponement, Mr. Carroll. Mr. Galais?
Wait, I didn't vote.
Oh.
I cleared my throat.
Oh.
I just want to say, I don't know the public that came out to, you claim it was a community meeting, it was probably more like a political rally, because the individuals I spoke to that are being rather unceremoniously displaced by various constructions on this list tonight are looking for a new home, and they haven't been given any effort, any help, any means of accomplishing that, and I think, I have no problem postponing this, but in the interim, I would implore those that are constructing these buildings, those that are looking to get this done, those that are looking for 20-year pilots, which is 5 more than we had agreed to, would themselves attempt at least to help these individuals that are being displaced. And we talked about at last month's meeting that I would happily come to any community meeting that is actually geared towards helping the people and dealing with their issues. So I vote aye to postpone.
Mr. Galais? Please don't speak out. Please.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Madeline, for keeping control of the meeting.
Mr. Galais? Mr. La Palusa?
Yeah, and anybody who would need help if they are displaced and you want to contact me or have me contact them, I'll help anybody who I can, and I vote aye.
Mr. Perez?
Aye.
Ms. Nadrowski?
I vote no. I mean, we have city business to do. We just all wouldn't vote, so, no.
Okay. 08, a motion to postpone to the meeting of April 20th. Would like to move it.
Move.
And a second?
Second.
And a motion to postpone. Mr. Carroll.
Aye.
Mr. Galais.
Aye.
Mr. La Palusa?
Aye.
Mr. Perez?
Aye.
Ms. Nadrowski?
No.
09, we have a motion to postpone to the meeting of April 20th. And a
Second.
And on the motion to postpone, Mr. Carroll.
Aye.
Mr. Galais?
Aye.
Mr. La Palusa?
Aye.
Mr. Perez?
Aye.
Ms. Nadrowski?
No.
010 is a bond ordinance providing for various 2022 capital improvements by and in the city of Bayonne, in the county of Hudson, state of New Jersey, and appropriating $18,075,000, therefore, in the aggregate amount of $7,231,963, and authorizing the issuance of $10,389,461 in bonds or notes of the cities to finance the cost thereof. And it was introduced at the meeting held February 16th, was published in the Jersey Journal and posted on the bulletin board as required by law, with notice that it would be further considered for final passage following a public hearing at this meeting of March 16th, 2022, is now before the council for its consideration and a public hearing. And a resolution moved by Councilmember La Palusa, giving the ordinance second reading. Mr. Perez, will you second?
Second.
On the resolution, Mr. Carroll.
Aye.
Mr. Galais.
Aye.
Mr. La Palusa.
Aye.
Mr. Perez.
Aye.
Ms. Nadrowski.
Aye.
Second reading is by title, a bond ordinance providing for the various 2022 capital improvements by and in the city of Bayonne, in the county of Hudson, state of New Jersey, appropriating $18,075,000 therefore, and authorizing the issuance of $10,389,461 in bonds or notes of the city to finance the cost thereof. The council is now ready to give all persons interested in this ordinance to be heard. The council president will recognize anyone who wishes to speak.
I have questions myself, because this is an extremely large bond, the largest that we've ever done in our time here. 18 million, it is, you could shake your head, but it's not.
Bond's not 18 million.
I know, because you're going to tell me of the matching funds, and I'm.
No, it's not matching funds, they're grants that we were awarded.
Yeah, grants. So that's, I think, so that's great. I love that part because that's great because we get $2 for every $1 we invest. But it would have been easier if we did this as two separate ones, like a services and then a projects. Because equipment, we have projects like the parks and everything, which are mostly done with the grants. And then we have equipment. So I just have some questions about the equipment, because some of the equipment, so we're getting a new fire truck. Is it the old fire truck? Is the old fire truck, is it because it's gone past, are we expanding our fleet, or is the old one past its life expectancy? Or any of that? Director Cooper, do you know that answer? Is the fire truck past, is this a replacement, an expansion? I mean, I'm all.
Replacing a 1997 truck that we can't even get parts for anymore.
Okay. And I know we're getting various other trucks and vehicles and plows and sweepers. Are these replacements again, or are we expanding our forces? And or are these things being retired or sold off at auction, or, because it doesn't say exactly what we're buying. I mean, it's a whole vast majority of stuff without really details of what. Yes, please. Mr. Cotter is going to tell us.
Thomas Carter, DPW Director, City of Bayonne. As far as the public works vehicles, the sweepers we have are older vehicles. They've been breaking down. We've been repairing them, so we'd be replacing a sweeper and retiring one of the older sweepers. The other trucks for the snow are think the three biggest trucks we have are 1989 Max. We put them back together with bubble gum every year. They need to be repaired or replaced.
Okay, so they're being replaced, so these are replacements. We're not expanding our fleet at all, we're just replacing.
No, we'd be replacing, no, not expanding, no.
Okay.
If you want to expand, I'd take it. Feeling generous?
Okay, no, I just trying to understand, okay. That's it, that were the questions I have. Oh, one other question, traffic signal. So the traffic signal, I see we say, so this price, what we're bonding for makes me think that it's for 2 traffic lights? Do we know exactly where? Like it's very vague. I'd like to know the location of where these traffic lights are going, what intersection?
The one that I know for sure is 49th Street. That's the one we've been working on. That's been, we're still going through approvals and all that, but if we have the money and then we go ahead, it can all be done.
So this is just for one traffic light?
No, the other one might be...
And where's the second location?
Yeah, we don't have it approved.
Well, what are we
So
looking
rather
at?
than say, I'm going to put a light there, and then we don't put a light there,
we-
people would be getting upset. If we get the approval for the other light, then I'd be more than happy to.
Well, what intersection are we looking at? We're approving it.
It's in the 30s.
It's a secret?
No, it's not a secret, but if we don't, it's just like when the people say, are you going to pave this year? And we pave, and we say, oh, we're going to pave 10th Street, and we don't pave 10th Street, then they get mad that we didn't put it there. I mean, 49th Street, we know we have a warrant for an approval.
Okay.
So, and that
Okay.
was, Mr. Grimes was an advocate for that, so I'm sure he's happy about that.
Okay, I'm sorry. Any public questions on this? Mr. Morris?
You mentioned 2 traffic lights, but there was an agreement with Mr. Steiger, who did the traffic study down by Amazon on West 4th Street and Avenue A. It was agreed upon that, if you check back into the records, that there would be a traffic light reinstalled there because it technically was a school zone. It still hasn't appeared yet. So any reason why?
I don't know. I asked the same question because everyone, it's not a secret, I live in that neighborhood, so the neighbors complain to me regularly, and I witness every day to the trucks, traffic, and the cars speeding from 1st to 8th Street because there's no traffic control at all.
It most certainly
But I
is a
don't-
speed zone.
Yeah, so I don't know why. I've asked the question, again, like Ms. Mauer said, she doesn't know about the fire trucks. We only know when we pass the budget. We don't know what the administration actually, they have to actually execute on the administrative side and make the phone calls and get the traffic lights and hold the developers accountable. So that would be a question that I don't have the information to answer because it's not within our control.
Well, as I recall of that meeting when they approved the Amazon site, Mr. Steiger, who did the antiquated 10-year-old traffic study over there, and he admitted that publicly, that it was antiquated. He did agree, in fact, in order to get the approval, that the traffic light would be reinstalled, even though he didn't realize himself that it was technically a school zone. So that had to be explained to him.
I understand. I don't know. Maybe that's the secret place that Mr. Cotter is looking to get a traffic light. I don't know.
Oh, I'd be happy with that.
Oh, that's not in the 30s. Okay. No.
Right.
So it's not in the 30.
So,
Maybe that's something our public safety director, we can get a letter to the manager of the facility. Thank you.
I'll be honest with you, it left me baffled that night when he didn't even realize that it was technically a school zone, which made me question his credentials to some point. So I hope that it's fixed sometime in the future. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Do we have any hands raised online?
You know, I
on-
do see a comment, and I don't know when it came, but it said that Gail Kadeski had her hand raised, and now she's seeing that there's also questions being, so is someone from Tetherview on the line? Because this happened last month, too, that people are raising their hands and no one's telling us, and they're putting questions in a chat. So this is, so is someone on the line from Tetherview?
Jonathan?
We can't unmute them, so.
Hello?
Yep, there he is. Hey, are there any hands raised on 010? Can we replace them?
Testing.
Who's testing now?
Yeah, but I can't really see it because it's so small. Shrink the window. I'm going to sleep.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. We're asking you if there are any hands raised? Because I see...
So you can hear me now. I apologize. Yes, so Mary Strugula and Gail Kudeski have their hands raised now. I've been answering it, just hadn't made it across. I apologize.
Okay, can you please unmute Mary Strugala, please? Sorry, Madeline.
Yes, ma'am.
No, it's fine.
Unmute.
Hello, Ms. Strugala? Are you there?
Mary Strugula is muted at the moment.
Mary, if you're there, you can unmute yourself and speak. Okay, well, why don't you unmute Gail, and we'll go back to Mary. Maybe she stepped away. I don't know how long ago she raised her hand. I just caught it now. So maybe she stepped away.
Good evening, council. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, I'll wait for public comments, but I had my hand raised for every single ordinance and been texting the gentleman and asking him if he was there, and nobody was responding. I had comments for every single ordinance that came up. So this happened last month, as you said, Madam President, but it has to stop. Some of us can't be there physically, and I had comments. I'm gonna make comments on the ordinances that you passed or postponed during public comments. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Can you just please check back with Ms. Strugala and see if she's there, since she does have her hand raised? Or maybe she took it down, I'm not sure.
He still has me on.
Jonathan, can you please unmute Mary Strugala? And mute Gail?
Gail's been muted and Mary has been unmuted.
Hi, Ms. Strugala, are you on the line? Okay, we'll just continue. If Ms. Strugala comes on, we'll take her. You can, thank you. You can mute her now. If she raises her hand again, we'll...
She's been...
Okay, Madeline.
Are there any other questions?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, come to the mic.
Yes, come on.
And state your name and address.
Hi, I'm Miso Demko, 42 West 27th Street. And this is just a question for traffic control specifically. Is there a place we could find how that, like the cost analysis is done for the additional traffic light? And actually both, if it's possible. I know it's like traffic light can be tens of thousands of dollars, and if the issue is traffic control, maybe there are other solutions that can be explored. So the question is there an analysis that's available for the public?
Did we do a traffic analysis? It was not made available to us, but there would have to be a traffic, and that would have been done by our city engineer, would have that data, who is not here, but if we have it, they had to do one. So you can certainly send a request, and we will get you the traffic analysis.
Okay, thank you.
They must do one to get a traffic light. He wants a copy of the traffic analysis report.
Okay. If there's no one else.
Sure.
Come on. Is it on 010?
No. I live on East 11, East 28. Next to McDonald's, there's a new McDonald's.
No, wait, sir, we're talking about a specific ordinance. If you just want to talk about something else, can you just wait? We're in the middle of voting, so you can only speak on what we're voting on, and in...
It's about traffic. It's about traffic.
No,
You can sign the form here.
Yeah, you could speak. We're talking about a bond ordinance right now.
Right up here, on the clipboard.
The part of the traffic was that the bond was paying for a traffic light. So we're on the middle of a bond ordinance, so does anyone else have any comments on the bond ordinance? The $18 million bond ordinance? No? Okay, Madeline.
Okay, going forward, no protest against, objections to, or statements in favor of this ordinance or its passage has been filed with me. May I have a motion to close?
Move.
Second.
On the motion to close, Mr. Carroll.
Aye.
Mr. Galais.
Aye.
Mr. La Palusa?
Aye.
Mr. Perez?
Aye.
Ms. Nadrowski?
Aye.
And a resolution ordering final passage.
Move.
Second.
And on resolution for final passage, Mr. Carroll.
Aye.
Mr. Galais.
Aye.
Mr. La Palusa?
Aye.
Mr. Perez?
Aye.
Ms. Nadrowski?
Aye.
011 is an ordinance of the City of Bayonne, New Jersey, amending the general ordinances of the City of Bayonne, Chapter 2, Administration, Article 2, Municipal Council, Section 2-1.2, Powers of the Council, which was introduced and passed at a first reading at the meeting held February 16th, was published in the Jersey Journal and posted on the bulletin board as required by law, with notice that it would be further considered for final passage following a public hearing at this meeting of March 16th, and is now before the council for its consideration and public hearing. And a resolution moved by the council president, giving the ordinance second reading. Mr. La Palusa, will you second?
For second reading, yes.
And on the resolution, Mr. Carroll.
Aye.
Mr. Galais.
Aye.
Mr. La Palusa.
Aye.
Mr. Perez.
Aye.
Ms. Nadrowski.
Aye.
Second reading is by title, an ordinance of the City of Bayonne, New Jersey, amending the general ordinances of the city, Chapter 2, Administration, Article 2, Municipal Council, Section 2-1.2, Powers of the Council. The council is now ready to give all persons interested in this ordinance an opportunity to be heard concerning it. The council president will recognize anyone who wishes to speak.
Yes.
Good evening, Council. Peter Franco, 109 West 53rd Street. I just wanted to know what's being amended, what's changing.
So, Peter, this is a change that I introduced, and it's more about public input and transparency. So what the basic gist of the change is that for now on, what happened earlier tonight where we just vote down or postpone or vote up, before you can take any vote on an ordinance, there has to be a public comment. So if it gets on our agenda, the public has a right to speak on it. There's no more saying, people come here and we're saying, we're voting to postpone it, or we're voting it down, or voting it up. So before there can be an upvote, downvote, or postponement, there must be public comment allowed. So that's the change. Because
Awesome.
we're doing a lot of this. We put it on, we think we're going to get pushback from the public, so all of a sudden we don't want to have a vote on it, and I don't believe that's fair to the residents. So that was why I proposed this change.
Okay, thank you.
So while I'm not against people speaking about anything that they want on the agenda, there is a public speaking portion already at our meeting. So anybody could sign up to speak publicly about anything they want. And that's designed already so that the public has that chance to speak. So I don't really know why this would be redundant, in my opinion.
Well, because the public speaking is going to happen now, and then there's resolutions later on after the public speaking part, and we just shut people down. So not our public speaking, it's something, we do business after public speaking. And just like by the law says, when we have an ordinance or people have the right to speak at that time, I think we should just abide by that. So if they want to speak at that time and they want to speak again at the public, that's fine. But if they want to speak after the public comment, they should be allowed to speak. We shouldn't be able to summarily dismiss them because public speaking ended.
Mr. Coffey, is there a law or rule or regulation on that article?
Yes, Robert.
Well, the statutes require that if you're going to hear an ordinance on a second reading, that you have to have a public hearing if there's going to be a second reading. What happened back in December, I think it was, when there was a move to adjourn a matter, actually, there was no second, actually. What took place, there was a lawsuit about this. Mr. Salmon filed a suit in the Superior Court, and the issue as to whether or not a public hearing has to happen was addressed by the Chancery Division in that case. The statute requires that if there's a second reading, if an ordinance is moved to a second reading, then a public hearing has to be held. The issue that was at bar in the lawsuit was whether or not, if there was no second reading, there still had to be a public hearing. And the court ruled in favor of the city, and the ruling was with prejudice, saying that if there is no motion to have a second reading, then you don't have to have the public hearing. This would essentially obviate that and say we're going to self-regulate and impose a stricture on ourselves that the law doesn't require, which is okay if you want to do that. But it does remove your ability to adjourn something without having a public hearing,
Yeah.
if you're going to have a second reading.
I'll just read it for clarification. I'll just read the part of it. It says, "The council may adjourn or reschedule a public hearing, providing notice is given to the public. The ordinance after introduction and on second reading cannot be adopted, rejected, modified, amended, carried, tabled, or otherwise acted upon without affording the public an opportunity to speak and comment on the introduced ordinance." So that's the change in the thing. We all got this. It was on for introduction. This is the second month it's on. It was introduced last month and it's on. So
Mr. Coffey, it's the same thing that Mr. LaPalooza said, right? It's redundant?
Well, it just imposes a restriction on your, but the question is, if you have a motion like we did back in December for a second reading, and there's no motion, or there's no second, or the vote goes against having a second reading, this ordinance, as I understand it, Council President, would still require a public hearing, correct?
it says after introduction and on second reading.
Yeah,
Cannot be
well,
adopted.
that's the law right now. On second reading, if there's a second reading, you have to have a public hearing. But if there's a motion to adjourn, which subsumes the motion to have the second reading, or if there's actually no second, or no vote, or a no vote on that, then there isn't a second reading. It's a procedural setup. When we introduce an ordinance, you have a motion to introduce, a second, and then a vote on the introduction of the ordinance. Come back a month later, it's under the statutes, it's read by title, because it was previously introduced. And at that point, the same procedure takes place. There's a motion to have a second reading, a second, if there's a second, and then a vote on that. And that can go positively or negatively. If you have a positive vote, then you go into the second reading, and that's when an ordinance hearing is required. If there is no second reading, there is no business to transact. On this one, it was introduced last month. There's a introduction a motion, a second, and there was a vote to put this on. At this meeting, if you made the motion to put it on, if someone made the motion to put it on, and there was no second, it would die. It would not be put before the public. If there is a motion and a second, and the vote on the introduction of the second reading is 3-2 against, or 4-1 against, or 5-0 against, there is no second reading, and then no need for, under the statute, for a public hearing. This would essentially compel you to have that second hearing no matter what. That's the
Further
bottom line.
deregulating the meeting, essentially?
What's that?
Further deregulating the meeting?
Further allowing public participation in the meeting.
Meetings which you can't control, as evidenced tonight. From
Excuse me?
3 or
you're out of-
4, I'm out of
Oh,
order now?
yeah, you
Oh,
are.
there you go.
You are.
Good.
Just Council President, though, if this doesn't pass, people still get to come up and make a public comment about it
Again, if it's before,
afterwards.
if it's before public comment. You can vote how you want. Everyone's entitled to their
All right,
opinion.
but I'm just
I mean, you
saying,
can
in
vote
this
how you want.
case,
I'm just
This is before public comment. That's
Okay.
what, that's all I'm
I
stating the
introduced
fact.
this as a way to ensure public participation. We just had 3 things that were just adjourned. We just said we're postponing, and the public didn't get to talk on. And maybe they came here to talk on it. And the point of this, and you can vote how you want, it's my opinion that if the public comes here and we put something on our agenda, we passed it last month and it got to the second reading, the public should have a say, even if we changed our mind.
We've never refused to let somebody talk, even if they wanted to talk, and it was turned down.
Okay, so then,
So that,
Okay.
I'm just stating the fact, again,
Okay.
never.
okay, yes.
Jason Gass, 73 East 25th Street. It would seem beneficial for the whole city as a whole to have public input no matter what you guys are planning to vote on, because you represent us. We're the constituents. And if you're not going to listen to how we feel of what you're going to be voting on, and you're going to do all this, well, it goes here, but you could do this. I'm reading this, and I'm like, what are they even talking about? O-11, if you read that, a common person reads that, they have no idea what that means. Half of these things on here, I have no idea. There's no summary for the regular resident to just look at this and say, oh, I know what that is. I don't even know what street this is on. Delta Gas Station, Silk Lofts East, Silk Lofts West, and I guess this information is available to residents before the meeting starts. So all this
It's on the
information.
bulletin board out front, and it's also available in my office.
Is it available online? Like if I go to like the Bayonne.org, like is it on like the first homepage? Is it hard to find?
It's
Is it-
under, like, proposed ordinances, passed ordinances.
So everything that's here can be researched by a
Ordinances
constituent before they come to the meeting?
Ordinances, yes.
Okay.
Introduced ordinances will be in full, exactly as how they're going to be considered at the second meeting. So if something gets introduced in March, there's an actual document that the clerk has posted on the website.
Okay.
You can come in and get all the hard copies, but you can go on the website and see what is being proposed for hearing the following month. That's
So-
on the clerk's website.
So with the introduction, I could be at the first meeting when it's being introduced, but I'm not allowed to offer public comment?
No, at that point, sometimes we're seeing stuff for the first time. So we get that you have 30 days or 25 days, whatever it is, between the time of introduction and the time of the second hearing to go over this, ask questions, call people, find out the particulars. Like if you looked at one of these financial agreements, let's say Delta Gas Station's 08, it has the list, it has the property, 18-220 Broadway, and it's got the block and lot, and sometimes they don't have the actual address. In this case, the name of the entity that's going for the financial agreement just happens to be named 218-220.
Well, that's a clue, I guess.
Yeah, that's a clue. But if you got the application form
would know
from the clerk's office, it's all in there. Block, lot, address, how many units they're building, what the terms of the financial agreement are.
So
You're going to fall asleep reading it, but...
No, I'm a fast reader. O-10, I I don't know what it is that you're buying. I mean, I know you passed it, but you asked the city council to pass something that they don't even know where the money's being spent.
We did have it in full. I asked questions. I specifically asked questions about certain things because of the fire truck, the thing, so
All right.
we did have that.
There is a rundown of all the items that we have.
Okay.
If you need to find that out,
It's
the
also
clerk can
public,
give that
so
to you. It's public.
That's
so,
public?
Yeah,
I don't have to do an Oprah request or
No,
anything?
no, absolutely not.
All right, I agree with the public input. I think we should self-regulate so the public could be more involved.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Jacqueline Weimer, 13 Mechanic Street. I have to say, number one, I don't disagree. I do think that the public's opinion is absolutely relevant. I think that the public should have an opportunity to offer comment on every project here in the city. I wonder why that has only become relevant now, and why this is only being introduced a month ago. Why hasn't that mattered for the last 7 years? Thank you.
Oh, did you want an answer?
No, she was just making a point.
Any hands raised online?
Yes, we have one hand raised, Gail Godesky. Shall I unmute her?
Yes, go ahead.
Unmuted.
Ms. Godesky, can you hear us?
Yes, good evening again. Based on this 011, I firmly believe that there should be a vote yes. It is totally different than public comments. Remember, gentlemen and Madam President, we elected you. You were not appointed. You work for the people of the city of Bayonne, New Jersey. You need to hear our voices. And this transparency will allow us to give our opinion of what is happening in the city of Bayonne. Not because you have political friends or receive donations, it's because we, the public, elected you to do what's right for the people and the city of Bayonne. So I strongly urge each and every one of you to vote yes on this ordinance. It is important to every single person, not just those sitting in the audience tonight, but every resident in the city of Bayonne, whether they own a home or they rent or they're moving here. It's extremely urgent that transparency should be allowed. It's a long time coming, everybody. Let's fix Bayonne together. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. High?
So Camille High, 263 Avenue C. So a crucial question was asked tonight, right? But for the last 7 years, it didn't matter. So that's just like bringing up the topic of domestic violence. Some of us have lived here for, like myself, 31 years. Never in the history of Bayonne, or me living here, where I would have thought that a resolution would be proposed that says that we would be taking care of or suggesting that domestic violence is important, right? So the power of the people, their voices were heard. So this is why this resolution matters. Now, before we vote, as Gail said, shout out to Gail, appreciate you. The people's voices need to be heard. If we're representing the people, we need to hear what the people have to say. Now, whether it's election season or not, we have to be ready, willing, and able to hear the people. So I wanted to bring up another example, educator to educator. The gentleman that just walked up here and the gentleman that walked up here. He didn't know what was going on at all. He didn't know that it was the time that we're speaking about a specific ordinance. This gentleman right here, you made a very great point. It's a bunch of stuff on the paper. I don't know what we're talking about, right? Some of this stuff is common sense. If we put you here, we do need to hear certain things. We need to be heard. And I feel like, again, if we're going to do these things, we have to do it correctly. So it doesn't matter how many years it took for us to talk about these things, they're getting done. So whether who's here now and those to come, you have to be willing to hear the people and also do the work. So if we put you here, let's do the work.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Good evening, Mike Morris, 123 Avenue C. What people in Bayonne don't realize is that domestic violence is within our city every single day, 24 hours a day. If you listen to the scanner, you always hear the domestic violence calls come over, boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever it may be. Unfortunately, someone was murdered, which is very sad. We don't have too many of those happen in our town. But people do need to be aware that it's been here for many, many years. And unfortunately, it's probably going to be here for a while. Hopefully, with the help of the police, who do an excellent job, it'll go away or at least subside to some reasonable degree. But I don't relish the idea of being a police officer in Bayonne having to deal with this, especially when you hear a call for backup. That's pretty serious. So hopefully none of the police officers are hurt in the commission of these violent crimes. What we fail to realize is that they are on the front line of all of this, and we haven't even mentioned them or given them any reasonable thanks. I appreciate their presence here. Hopefully it'll end. Thank you.
Thank you. Any more on this resolution or ordinance?
With that, I'll take a motion. No protest against, objection to, or statements in favor of this ordinance has been filed with me. I will take a motion to close.
So moved.
Second.
And on the motion to close, Mr. Carroll.
Aye.
Mr. Galais.
Aye.
Mr. La Palusa?
Aye.
Mr. Perez?
Aye.
Ms. Nadrowski?
Aye.
And a resolution ordering final passage.
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
And on the motion for final passage, Mr. Carroll.
I agree with Councilman La Palusa's assessment that it's redundant. It may make for a great political headline tomorrow, but the public has the right and the ability to have their input heard. We've heard from 11 different people tonight, at home and present. There's the public speaking portion. They can go backwards and talk on things that happened after. And especially given my 3 years here and the way I've seen these meetings go, I don't relish the idea of further deregulating it if it can't be controlled and order can't be provided in the room and respect in the room. So I vote no.
Mr. Galais?
I vote aye.
Mr. La Palusa?
Again, I think it's redundant. We've never refused to hear anybody. So even somebody that was to come out of order, Gail wants to speak on other ordinances in the public speaking portion, I would never say no to that. So I don't see why we need this, because I would never say no to hearing any of the public, and they have a chance at public comments. One of the first things we did as this council back in 2014 was we changed what the Smith administration did, and they moved all the public comment to the end of the meeting. And that was done on purpose. They're not putting the people first. Our administration put the people first, and we put it up in the front. So this way you wouldn't have to wait the whole meeting, because some people didn't want to wait the whole meeting, and I think the previous administration knew that. So with that, I believe it's redundant. I believe the way it's done now is the proper way to do it, and I'm going to vote no on this.
Mr. Perez?
I totally feel just like Councilman Carroll and Councilman La Palusa. I think this is redundant. Like he says, we're open to the public. We're here to hear what they have to say. That's why we have that mechanism in place. This, to me, the same thing that he said, it's a political thing. It appears so. And so I vote no.
Ms. Nadrowski?
Well, I am disappointed that my colleagues don't feel the need to provide the public with all opportunities. And even if it is redundant, there's nothing wrong with saying it multiple times, just like I'll say 100 times I'm against domestic violence. I said it at the beginning of the meeting, I said it outside, I'll say it here. Redundancy never hurt anybody, and I think, reiterating and re-empowering people to speak is always the right thing to do.
You're
So I vote
admitting
aye.
it's redundant, though.
I vote aye.
Unfortunately, the ordinance has failed adoption by a 3-2 vote. 012 is an ordinance authorizing early voting for the City of Bayonne's regular municipal election of 2022, pursuant to NJSA 19:1-15A.1 et sec, which was introduced and passed a reading at the meeting held February 16th, was published in the Jersey Journal and posted on the bulletin board as required by law, with notice that it would be further considered for final passage following a public hearing at this meeting of March 16th, and is now before the council for its consideration and a public hearing. And a resolution giving the ordinance second reading is moved by Councilmember Perez. Ms. Nadrowski, will you second?
I will second.
And on the resolution, Mr. Carroll.
Aye.
Mr. Galais.
Aye.
Mr. La Palusa?
Aye.
Mr. Perez?
Aye.
Ms. Nadrowski?
Aye.
Second reading is by title, an ordinance authorizing early voting for the City of Bayonne regular municipal election of 2022, pursuant to NJSA 19:1-15A-1 et sec. The council is now ready to give all persons interested in this ordinance an opportunity to be heard concerning it. The council president will recognize anyone who wishes to speak.
I just have one, can we clarify for the residents, do we have the polling location for this?
No, once this passes, then, and I do my ballot drawing, I will have a conversation with the county. We have a meeting set up, hopefully next week, for a location.
Yes. Mr. Solari.
Dave Solari, 16 Colonial Drive.
Oh, sorry.
Is this going to be an ongoing thing now, that we're going to be doing voting before elections?
Yes.
Can I ask why we're doing this? I mean, do we have to do this by law or no?
Municipal elections, no. Primary and general elections, yes. They're run by the state.
Okay, so municipal elections, we don't have to do it, but we're doing it anyway, right?
We are trying it this year,
We're
yes.
trying it. The $10,000, where's that coming out of? What fund?
I think it's the clerk's office, right, Madeline?
That comes out of my budget, my election budget.
It comes out of your election budget? Because I'm just saying, $10,000, we could probably put that somewhere else. I really think that this was uncalled for to have a pre-election 3 days before or 2 days before, because this could be another fix, like the Trump and Biden thing. I mean, if you want to talk about...
I'm all about giving people as much opportunity.
You want to talk about, losing an election. I mean, I don't know who voted for who, but, so far you talk to anybody, nobody voted for Biden, and that election was stolen right there, so is this election...
Excuse me, we just heard about,
Is this election going to be stolen again to maybe get...
Can we just, if you're not talking, can you please be quiet?
Can this election be stolen for maybe 3 council people to get in and a mayor to
Mr.
get in?
Solari, the
I'm just-
election system is secure.
Don't
and
say anything secured.
There's nothing wrong with allowing, I'm all for allowing as many people to participate in the process as possible, and if this allows more people to participate, then this is what we should do.
Nothing is secured these days. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
I think there was a hand raised online.
Okay.
David Adler? There was a hand raised?
Unmute him.
Yes, please.
Mr. Adler? I don't know how long ago he raised his hand.
It is not allowing me to unmute David.
Are you able?
David's been offline.
Okay.
Is there anyone else with their hand raised to speak on the early voting ordinance? Okay.
No hands raised.
How you doing? Pat Desmond, 131 West Fourth. Do you know where this is going to be held, early vote?
I just asked Ms. Medina that. She does not, but I think we're anticipating probably the public library, because it has to be a centrally located place, has to be free of basically not near a police station and a public building. So, and it won't be in a school because the schools are in session, because it's a Friday. So I would believe it would be,
So this would be the Friday, Saturday, Sunday,
Friday, Saturday.
off on Monday, and then vote again on Tuesday?
Right. They'll
Yes.
come and confiscate the machines.
All right, thank you.
Any other questions on the early voting?
Mr. Torello?
Hi, KT Terrell, 159 West 3rd. Do we know exactly how many ballots will be mailed out?
Oh, the vote by mail? Madeline, do you get that?
I don't get the total count of how many vote by mails, but we mail out ballots to every registered voter in the city of Bayonne, and that's about close to 40,000 people.
How many? And we're going to have one location supposedly.
Well, there'll
This is
be
for
up to
early
3
voting.
machines. That's early voting.
You're right, and you're, if I heard right, at the Bayonne Public Library?
Very, yeah.
Okay. A guarded box, of course, right?
Excuse me?
Yeah,
The
they're
box will be
machines.
someone will watch the box. It's
Oh, yeah.
the same as custody or transfer or anything like that.
Right.
That's going to
Every
go into the
night.
federal election laws, correct?
Every night, the county comes in, they are the only ones that empty the cartridges,
Right.
and they go out with the county. They don't stay in the machines overnight.
Thank you. Answer my question.
Mr. Franco?
Peter Franco, 109 West 53rd Street. So we have a tentative location potentially at the library, but I just want to make sure that this is not going to happen inside City Hall, right? Like, there's no...
I don't believe it could with the, some of the regulations require it to be intimidation-free, so they consider if a police department is too close for it to be not an intimidation-free place, according to the guidelines. So I would imagine that or the election lawyer, Mr. Harper, would not recommend City Hall. And not to mention, we'll be doing business at that time, that we're open for business. But I'm thinking that, Ms. Medina, because that's the new regulations.
Yeah, that was the change in the law, that it couldn't be where police come in and out. It's considered intimidation. Our goal is to keep it on bus lines. There's parking at the library, so it kind of opens it up that if you're going to come, you can park, you can get on a bus, you can go vote.
And it has to be centrally located. So by default, I think that's the only valid
Location.
site, honestly. And it is already a polling place, so it's already a place that's used, so we already have the side door. We know how it works. They have it logistically laid out because it is an official polling place. But again, Ms. Medina has to work with the county, right, on finalizing the actual location that they have to approve in the end.
Madeline, does it have to be a previous polling place?
No, because we used here for the general election. So it would be better in a polling place where people know where to find it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? No protest against, objections to, or statements in favor of this ordinance has been filed with me. May I have a motion to close?
So move.
Second.
And on the motion to close, Mr. Carroll.
Aye.
Mr. Galais.
Aye.
Mr. La Palusa?
Aye.
Mr. Perez?
Aye.
Ms. Nadrowski?
Aye.
And a resolution ordering final passage.
Move.
Second.
And on the motion for final passage, Mr. Carroll.
Aye.
Mr. Galais?
I don't think we need early voting. Cost of money. It's crazy. I ran twice. As long as you knock on the doors, you meet the residents, I think you're fine, right? Like, come on.
So what's your vote then?
That's a no. Okay, thank you. Mr. La Palusa?
I believe in giving everybody all the opportunity they can. If it's possible they can't make it on a Tuesday and they could do it on a weekend, I'm all for it, so I'll vote aye.
Mr. Perez?
Aye.
Ms. Nadrowski?
Aye.
013 is an ordinance amending and supplementing the revised general ordinances of the City of Bayonne, Chapter 7 Traffic, which was introduced and passed the first reading at the meeting held February 16th, was published in the Jersey Journal and posted on the bulletin board as required by law, with notice that it would be further considered for final passage following a public hearing at this meeting of March 16th, 2022, is now before the council for its consideration and a public hearing. And a resolution moved by Councilmember La Palusa, giving the ordinance second reading. Mr. Perez, will you second?
Second.
And on the resolution, Mr. Carroll.
Aye.
Mr. Galais.
Aye.
Mr. La Palusa.
Aye.
Mr. Perez.
Aye.
Ms. Nadrowski.
Aye.
Second reading is by title, an ordinance amending and supplementing the revised general ordinances of the City of Bayonne, Chapter 7 Traffic. The council is now ready to give all persons interested in this ordinance an opportunity to be heard concerning it. The council president will recognize anyone who wishes to speak. With that, generally no one speaks on that. No protest against, objections to, or statements in favor of this ordinance or its passage has been filed with me. May I have a motion to close?
Move.
Second.
And on the motion to close, Mr. Carroll.
Aye.
Mr. Galais.
Aye.
Mr. La Palusa.
Aye.
Mr. Perez.
Aye.
Ms. Nadrowski.
Aye.
And a resolution ordering final passage.
Move.
Second.
And on the resolution for final passage, Mr. Carroll.
Aye.
Mr. Galais.
Aye.
Mr. La Palusa.
Aye.
Mr. Perez.
Aye.
Ms. Nadrowski.
Aye. I just want to say, I do see another hand was
I'm
raised
sorry.
about 2 minutes ago. Melissa Gadesi Rodriguez has her hand raised.
She's-
Correct, we've got that in chat as well, so we'll go ahead and unmute her.
Okay,
Yes, please, because I think she might have wanted to talk on the last
the last
that
one.
was missed. But okay.
I believe so,
That's
it's
fine.
at 8:53, so she should be unmuted now. Thank you.
Ms. Gadesky? Melissa, can you hear us?
I can,
Okay,
thank you.
There you go. Sorry.
Melissa Gadesky Rodriguez, 148 Avenue F. One, sorry for my slightly frustrating comment, but I'm concerned that Tetherview is not being properly monitored, just my opinion. So I would just wanted to ask a question to the city council regarding the early voting location. Since it would be at the library, a small relief, but a considerate relief would be consider maybe providing some free parking in the area for those who do get to drive over there for a quick run in to vote. It might be something you guys can consider as a small relief and consideration to the public.
I agree. We would certainly can look into not enforcing the meters and the lock behind there. I'd also encourage it to be a timed, we don't want people just taking advantage and parking there all day and circumventing the purpose, which would be to let people run in and out and vote. So Public Safety Director Coopert is in the room, and we can have him work with the parking authority and see how we could effectuate helping out with the parking situation over there and making sure people, don't park there all day for free.
Agreed, thank you. Again, it's a small consideration, but sometimes it goes a long way and might inspire a few more people to come out and get their voting done for our election. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for the idea. Okay, Madeline, sorry.
So we're moving on to 014, which is an ordinance executing a lease agreement by and between the City of Bayonne and the Atlas Yacht Club of Bayonne, Inc., Bayonne, which was introduced and passed the first reading at a meeting held February 16th, was published in the Jersey Journal and posted on the bulletin board as required by law, with notice that it would be further considered for final passage at a public hearing at this meeting, March 16th, is now before the council for its consideration and a public hearing. And a resolution moved by the council president, giving the ordinance second reading. Mr. Perez, will you second?
Second.
And on the resolution for second reading, Mr. Carroll.
Aye.
Mr. Galais.
Aye.
Mr. La Palusa.
Aye.
Mr. Perez.
Aye.
Ms. Nadrowski.
Aye.
Second reading is by title, an ordinance executing a lease agreement by and between the City of Bayonne and Atlas Yacht Club of Bayonne, Inc., Bayonne. The council is now ready to give all persons interested in this ordinance an opportunity to be heard concerning it. The council president will recognize anyone who wishes to speak.
We've got two raised hands still, Melissa Godesky and Gail Godesky.
Good evening, Mike Morris, 123 Avenue C. What most people in Bayonne don't seem to realize about the Atlas Yacht Club is that it was one of the pivotal places where a noted maritime artist by the name of John Noble did some of his greatest artworks. It's an area that is absolutely historical, is valuable to the city of Bayonne, and I believe that a 10-year period is definitely not enough. It probably should be for 100 years, because it's a place that you can actually go down and look at and almost travel back in time. It's magical. John Noble's artworks hang in the Library of Congress. Some of the greatest artworks that he commissioned in his lifetime were along First Street by Gorman Field, the old barge wrecks. I, as a kid, and my friends used to climb aboard those things and go in and out of them like it was nothing. It's something for everyone to see. Bayonne is very historical. Unfortunately, there aren't many historical sites left for you to vision in person, but this is one of the areas. It's absolutely beautiful. I mean, you can walk along the coastline opposite this small village of buildings, whatever you might want to call them, and look, and they're colorful, they're beautiful, they have boat slips. It's something to see, something that in Bayonne really needs to be preserved for everyone to know about and see. So hopefully you might consider a longer period of time than 10 years, because who's to say in 10 years we might have a new administration and they might not see fit to keep it there and want to redevelop that waterfront. We need to save what we have here of historic value. So thank you.
Thank you.
Jonathan, you can unmute Gail Godesky.
Looks like Gail no longer has her hand raised, and Melissa mentioned she did not need it for this ordinance item.
Okay, any other questions? Comments? No protest against, objections to, or statements in favor of this ordinance or its passage has been filed with me. May I have a motion to close?
So moved.
Second.
And on the motion to close, Mr. Carroll.
Aye.
Mr. Galais.
Aye.
Mr. La Palusa?
Aye.
Mr. Perez?
Aye.
Ms. Nadrowski?
Aye.
And a resolution ordering final passage.
So moved.
Second.
And on the resolution for final passage, Mr. Carroll.
Aye.
Mr. Galais?
Aye.
Mr. La Palusa?
Aye.
Mr. Perez?
Aye.
Ms. Nadrowski?
Aye.
Okay. Our first speaker is Ms. Riscard.
Cheryl Riscott, 19 West 19th Street. Good evening, council. Jay, I need you to go to Mayor Davis to get to the governor. What is being done to me is very, very sick. Again, I'm here for the 4th time. I am not going to allow somebody that was paid off to put me in my grave. Period. Disgrace my name. If someone has something to say about me, come to my face again, and I will tell you my story. I've been in 880 Kennedy Boulevard since 1980. Some new landlord came aboard that everyone knows, very wealthy, that wanted me to move from one apartment to another so he could become a little more wealthier than he already was. Cheryl refused because Cheryl wanted to become a realtor, and I was on my state exam. That wasn't good enough for him. So torture me to death and have this Michael Boschwick with his movie, have people torment me in the street, use his devices to put smells on me all day, from paint to whatever, and cause me to go to the ER every other day, is very sick. I am not blaming you. I know it's from a higher up, from what I was told, but I do know someone in Bayonne has something to do with it, and it needs to stop. When you talk about violence, it's right here in front of you, and it's disgusting. To go visit again my granddaughter Christmas Day, and he puts a smell in that apartment when that baby, 4 months old, screamed on top of her lungs and had red rings around her eyes. I had to put my coat on and leave, and I cannot go back there. It's totally it's not even out of order. It's a very, very, very sick situation. Very sick. And I will be damned if somebody's going to put me in my grave. So to talk about violence, if something happens to me, it's on Bayonne. And to talk about my personal life, again, come to me, and I will tell you anything that you heard or you would like to hear, because I know what he's doing through the internet. I know what he's doing to the cell phones. I know he's telling people to scratch. I know he's telling people to do this, because every time I look at somebody, this is what I see. Instead of a pandemic of COVID, you would think we had a pandemic of lice in Bayonne. And I'm tired of it. It's mental abuse. And if I did something about it, this is where I would be. And I refuse to do that for anyone. He hurt my granddaughter. Somebody's going to pay a big price.
Cheryl?
Sharon, I'm sorry.
No, I understand, but you could take this offline and call the office and have a conversation about.
I went to the police. I went to the police. I'm going to give you one example. Day before yesterday, I was crossing the street from Pyramid going to Dunkin' Donuts, and this is almost every day I'm on 25th Street. I got an apartment. I refused to go there because I could feel myself not being able to go out the door, that someday they're going to find me laying on the floor. Crossing the street, there's a van in the middle of the white lines. Now, since I got hit by a car there, I am staying in the white lines. So when I get in the middle, the guy's not moving. I have one girl from Jersey City that's been trying to itch to get into this movie, to say something, to start a fight with me. I've been ignoring her. She comes out into the street and says, because I didn't move, oh, she's crazy, don't listen, don't worry about her. Meanwhile, the guy's in the van, he doesn't hear a word she's saying, and it caused an argument. I don't argue with people, and it's causing me to have outbursts and people disliking me. The garbage in the street that wants to believe what they're hearing, that's fine. But I have friends that know me, and know me very well. This isn't Cheryl. And if there's anything said sexual, of anything about me, come to me, and I will tell you the whole story. And Mr. Quintella put somebody underneath me to harass me for, I think, about 6 or 7 years straight, Ben Forsetti, which is sitting pretty in 535 Avenue A with his 2 dogs. That's the man that wanted a little bit more money.
I understand, Cheryl, and
so something needs to be done before there is a major violence, because I am not going to put up with this no more. Every time I go to an apartment, every time I go to somebody, I got to deal with the smell on me. I can't sleep. I have to run outside. I got to open up windows. Same thing in housing. And it's all done by computer. So when somebody comes and says, oh, you call the fire department, they didn't smell anything because it's run by computer. Sharon, I don't know what else to say
I know
anymore.
I empathize with you, but as you know, in the past, those stuff is out of our control.
I know it's out of your
So-
control. That's why I'm asking Jay, a 4-month-year-old baby got hurt. This kid is going to suffer. When I went to the house the other day, I could see how scared she was and pulled onto my daughter's arms. It's not about me, because I could take care of myself. I might go in handcuffs, but I could take care of myself, and I've been holding back for a very, very long time. And since my face and my body is changing dramatically, it's going to come to an end. Good, bad, dirty, whatever. But this guy is not going to get away with destroying the town, dirtying the town. He destroyed people's minds, everything to giving them a penny.
I understand, Sharon.
I don't know what else to say. All I know is I'm asking Jay to get to Davis, to get to the governor. Because when this started, I saw the governor leaving the mayor's office. And if I could go to him myself and pass everybody up, I would have a decent conversation with this guy and tell him my story.
Okay.
Instead of this garbage on the internet because of a boyfriend, because of the greed for money. It's not about sexual. And if I did say something tonight about it, you'd run out of here. Somebody would be arrested.
Thank you, Cheryl.
But thank you for listening.
Thank you.
Jay, please get to Mayor Davis before this really gets dirty. Because like I said, they brought me down enough. You're not bringing me down no more. I have a family, I'm a human being, and that's all I could say. Thank you.
Mr. Solari.
Good evening. All right, we're back here again with this, let's try it one more time. How about the windmill? Anybody know the story about this windmill again? Anybody? What's going on with that?
Still negotiating with the company, actually with the American branch of the company, as to what can or cannot be done, and how, we're essentially negotiating terms with them right now.
Okay, now, who's liable still? Suez is still liable for this windmill, right?
Suez is just an operator. The liability that we have for it, if our argument is that the entity that put the windmill in did not properly install it, and it was broken more than it was operational. That's, if we go to court, our kids will be there for the end of that suit. So we're hoping to be able to work something out, negotiate a settlement so that we can get the thing moving again.
Yeah, because we're losing a lot of money. And I don't even know why Councilman Carroll should be on that, because that's in his ward, and that's, I have no idea, but, he only worries about certain things, but, okay. Anybody know about the $25 million that the MUA had in 2012 was left over, was in it seems like this is coming up that the 25 million was missing, and I'm just trying to figure that all out because I know where it went. I'm just wondering if you guys know where it went. Gary,
25,
Ron.
I don't think it was 25 million.
It was
I think
25
I
mil-
think it was closer to 12 or 18, I think.
$25 million was in the escrow account.
At the MUA.
At
They
the
had an
MUA,
account
so-
called the Rate Stabilization Fund. There
But that
was
was-
25 million, but when we took office, I believe it was half of that.
Yeah, I think it was like 18
Yeah.
when we came in.
And that was supposed to go towards the water, right? Is that correct?
To rate stabilization.
All right, but the gangbusters that came in when it was the Davis gangbusters came in 2012, they took that all out, and where did that money go then? Did it go, it didn't go towards the water, so where did it go? Anybody know?
Well, I think when we took over, I'm not sure the exact amount, then the MUA operated on its own for a while. And then when it came back, when we merged, the MUA finally dissolved it completely and boarded completely under the city. There was money left over in that, and it went into the city budget. as far as I know.
So we don't know where in the city budget it went to, just
I think it just went into general
general funds?
General funds.
General funds?
Essentially, David, it's set up to stabilize the rates, to keep rates lower, and whether you're, if you apply it towards repairs or you apply it directly towards the bills that are owed, it's six of one, half
No,
a
I
dozen of
was
the
just
other.
wondering because, it's...
There's a full accounting for where all that money went.
Absolutely, I know that, but it seems like it keeps popping up every time we went to election time, it always pops up. And I'm just wondering, where it went to. So now we got where it went. The parking authority, that was resolved too at one point, and there was maybe 450,000, I'm saying, it could be more or less. I guess that went into the general funds too?
That was before...
No, that was with
The parking utility was rolled into the city of Bayonne, just like the municipal
So that money
utilities.
went into the general funds too?
Correct.
Okay. All right. The park is a beautiful park. Oh, here, we spent a lot of money, thank God it's done now. You see kids playing in it. But how come the meters aren't back?
There's signs up right now to put the meters back. They're going to drill the holes.
Are they going to drill the holes?
So the signs are up right now.
Because the park is, it's been done for a while, and I don't know if the council is aware of this, any of you is aware of this, but all these buildings that are going up, when you go in front of the planning board or the zoning or whatever, there's going to be 28 spaces, 64 spaces, blah, 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 for cars. They don't tell you or the public that when they go to rent them, you got to pay for your parking. Parking is not included. We have to start changing that, because I'm going to tell you why. People figured, I don't have to, I'll just park on the street.
So I'm going to address that. So there was a time when I'm not saying they don't charge, but we had addressed this, I think, back in 2017, where we made an ordinance that people who live in those new developments, those addresses get reported to the parking authority, and and they have tried, and they call and complain, and when they try to get a parking sticker or, register for a parking permit, they will not be allowed. Those addresses are blocked from getting parking permits to park on the streets.
Well-
So the zone, yes, so they do not get, and they cannot park on the street. And we've had a number of, especially over on the Prospect Avenue area, them complain because they've been getting tickets because they're doing just what you're saying. They're not parking in their lots and they're parking on the streets, and they are getting tickets because that onus is on the developer to provide the parking, and the people are either going to have to pay it or it's going to be included in their rent, but they will not be allowed to park on the street and take away from the parking and the people who live around them.
Well,
I think it was
guess-
even sooner. I think it was
Excuse
2015, actually, when that was done.
Yeah.
But we could check. I don't know, I'm not
It
arguing.
seems like, it seems like there's more cars on the street there, because I'm going to give you one example. You get 22nd Street and Del Monte Way, all right? That middle street there,
Yes.
all right? All along that building, cars are there all day long. They don't move. They don't move.
Well,
Why don't we put...
them too will not have a parking permit. That building does not get a parking
Well,
permit to pit on.
number one, it's a loading zone still. It's not a whatchamacallit, because it was never taken down, and I don't think this council ever took away
No,
the
we never
loading
did.
zone yet. So they should take it away and put meters there, because you know how much revenue we're losing just along that area there? There's about 15 cars there. We're losing a lot of money there. I mean, and I'm telling you, it is the people from the
Okay, well,
building.
that's a parking enforcement issue then, because
Yeah.
they don't have residential stickers to park there.
Yeah, well,
I can let you know that.
Well, that was, all right. I got the tax thing. Now, I guess the budget should be coming up soon, right? Introducing of the budget soon?
We should be working on the budget.
Right, that should be coming up soon. This is from the city, and I went back as 2014, and going back maybe months ago, I remember Mr. Perez, Council Perez, turning around and saying, he came in, you all came in as a group, to stop the taxes going up, up, and up, and up. All right? I still even got that on video and when I recorded it. And I just wanted to play it one more time just to rephrase my memory, and it's still the same thing. I remember him going like this still. I don't know if he does, but I know I have it. Well, from 2014 to 2016, the first 2 quarters of 2016, now this is just only on my house alone, all right? I went up $1,200 from 2014 to 2016. From 2016 to the present, all right, it's a little over $3,000 that I went up. So now if you break it down, it's in an area around 350 to 375 a year, all right? Now, Mr. Perez, you stated that there'll be no tax rates, and it's just going up and up and up. Can you tell me how you could tell me it's not going up?
I don't remember that at all.
You don't remember that?
Yeah, I don't.
Must be old timers setting in there.
Yes, it is.
You know, maybe it's time to step
So
away.
I'll let you know that I don't remember that. You
know.
have a video, I'd like to see.
You might be,
I know that you exaggerate things and blow things out of
no, I don't exaggerate things, Mr.
I know
Perez.
how you are, so I'm telling you
Mr.
right now that if we did, the whole council tried to keep everything stable and...
Mr. Perez, if I show...
The issues here is that you're talking about, there's things like the fire department, the police department, their raises, and also the employees that work here, their raises, and there's other issues that involve.
Let's,
And then you have the Board of Education.
wait, let's roll the
You have
dice.
the Board of Education that
Yeah.
likes to increase it also.
No, let's roll the dice. If you saying you didn't say it, and I have that video,
Good.
wait, I show it to you, you step down as councilman?
I just stay on.
Then, huh?
Just, okay,
No,
Mr.,
because that's not gonna, because you know that's not gonna
You
happen.
know, you're a Pinocchio.
Huh? What was that? I didn't hear what you said.
You fabricate and you exaggerate.
Nah, I don't fabricate, Mr. Perez.
okay, keep it.
All right? Yeah, my 5 minutes ain't up yet, Mr. Carroll, all right? Because you know I'm coming to you next, right?
Okay.
Yeah, because let me
Dave,
tell you.
Dave.
I don't want to let logic and reason.
Dave, can we
just wanna-
just move on and keep your
I
questions?
am going on, please, you know. Down in the second ward, the first ward, Mr. Carroll, I'm sorry, the second ward is a great ward, because I guess Mr. Galais was running a good thing down there, so you should be very happy, Mr. Galais, you know, and they didn't want you because of certain reasons. But, Mr. Carroll, huh? What was that? Yeah, well, yeah. Well, Mr. Carroll, I just want to know, what can you tell me what you did in the first ward besides nothing?
I refer you back to my previous answer. I don't want to let facts and logic and reason and proof get in the way of you enjoying yourself.
Because just like you said, everything,
Okay, okay.
everything is, no, I don't have to,
I
Mr.
actually
Carroll.
gave a pretty comprehensive list about 2 months ago, and you came and misquoted.
Yeah, no, I don't have to misquote. But I just got to say, now, Gary, we talked about, I think it was between Sharon and you about, was the state who's gonna pave that little area that stopped at the one end? You said you were gonna get back to me, and you never did. Can you tell me if you've got any reasons on that, or?
Which area are we talking
We're
about?
talking about for public services on 63rd Street. They stopped.
Yes, I had a conversation with Director Cotter today about that. It's owned by a couple different people, and we're in the
The highway?
process of, excuse me?
The highway? The highway.
Oh.
The highway.
No, I'm sorry.
Oh, no.
Behind the houses,
I'm
like
not
you had
talking
spoken
about
to
that.
people.
That is already taken care of. We already took care of that one. I'm talking about the highway.
So,
It looks like Beirut, we're riding down that way.
right. So I've had some of the potholes fixed. There's a few things in there that I have to, but I was able to get the county to repave part of that by the underpasses as well on that road. That happened today, as a matter of fact.
Today, I haven't been that way all day.
It was
today.
milled and paved today, and I'm still working on trying to get the whole piece done, but sometimes the budget doesn't apply for that. And we talk about not wanting to raise the taxes.
No, I
so-
understand that, but why, why did the state stop only so far and not all the way up? They salt all the way up, but they stopped so far. They were doing the construction there.
Yeah, I don't have an answer for you because
You know,
it's not easy to get
Public
answers
Service
from
did
the
the
state.
construction there, they should pay for it, they ruined it all. You know, with the trucks and everything that were going through there, that's what I'm saying, it's,
Because they have their lot
yeah,
over there, too.
you know, all right, I was just wondering if you got anything on that, thank you.
Thank you. Who's next, Madeline?
Mr. Franco?
Good evening, Peter Franco, 109 West 53rd Street. I have a comment, but I also want to just kind of parlay off what Dave had just mentioned. So as Gary said, it's the Rate Stabilization Fund. That was the fund. When the contract was put together with Suez, KKR, United Water at the time, the Mayor, Mark Smith, had put together a rate stabilization fund that was designed ultimately to keep those rates at a certain amount throughout the entire time. This administration decided that they were going to utilize that funding as one-time budgetary plugs. So that's where the $25 million went. You can go on Google. I've had the debate with the previous business administrator on this. But so that money was there. It was ultimately utilized for budgetary purposes. But it's kind of disingenuous because it's like this administration often blames Mayor Mark Smith for the water deal, but they don't quite tell you that they spent all that money. So for what I'm here to talk about tonight, I got this, I saw this online. This is, the mayor's doing a one-block parade Thursday. So it looks like it's starting on 4th and Lexington and going over to Hobart, over to the Vic. Let me see here. So one of the things that, you know, with all of this, as I'm scrolling, so you have the one-block parade. As a member of the Bayonne Hispanic Association, myself, Abet Hernandez, and others had to come before this governing body every year to get a permit, license, and approval to have a parade. We had to get insurance for the event and then provide copies of the event insurance policy. We had to coordinate with the DPW, Police Department, EMS, and pay for police by the hour. So I want to know why the mayor hasn't come before this board requesting approval like the rest of us have to do. The hometown fair, the Irish Festival, the Irish Parade, Juneteenth, which is actually on the agenda this evening. I want to know, why is he any different than the rest of us? You know, I would imagine that the police chief would agree that nobody's above the law, everybody's got to follow the same procedure, right? So why do we have to come up here and ask for permission, but the mayor just kind of does what he wants? To me, I just think, it's like there's a separate set of rules for him. I want to know, because this is an event that's going on, alcohol will be there, does he have insurance for this? If somebody gets hurt, is it on the taxpayers? Are the taxpayers going to foot the bill for DPW to clean up? Are the taxpayers going to foot the bill for the additional police that need to be here? I'd like to know, because every one of our groups around town and stuff like that have to deal with this.
I'm not aware of, I've seen the flyer, but I'm not aware of, it hasn't come before us, and you are right. We had the St. Patrick's Day Parade this weekend, and they came before us. They provided us, like you said, they have to sit down and meet with multiple groups, the police, OEM, and they have to present all the paperwork, as you know, from with the Hispanic Day Parade. I'm not sure why a pass was given on this. I'm not sure what the details of this are. I'm not sure what the organization really is that said that's running it, and I do believe that it should be held to the same, same requirements that everyone else is. Like I said, we have the Juneteenth on tonight. They had to come in, they had to meet, they had to provide documentation, they have to provide proof of insurance, and they have to pay for the police officers that work. So I cannot answer that. I don't know if any of my colleagues up here can answer. Are you aware of this, or does anyone know of any? I don't know.
I would imagine maybe the police chief.
The law director, because you usually enter into agreements. So I guess I don't know. Does someone want to comment on this, Chief Geisler? I'm not aware of any permission given for a parade. It hasn't been given by the council up here, and I'm not aware of, normally, the normal procedure obviously hasn't been followed.
Good evening, council. I was informed that insurance has been taken out by the owner of the tavern.
Okay, but are they hosting it? This is...
It's the Vic Tavern's event in conjunction with the Davis family.
Okay, and then they went through the whole process of a parade route, all of that stuff, they're meeting the requirements?
Correct. We did a traffic survey for them like we would do at any other event.
Okay, is this common that this happens, like, sideways and not like when, because normally we have to come before the city council to get this approved, so the mayor just arbitrarily reached out to you and said, this is what we have going on?
We went through the steps we normally go through. I have no control over who comes before the council and who doesn't.
All right, thank you.
Were you given liability insurance? You were provided liability insurance?
Mr. Torillo?
KT Torello, 159 West 3rd. I was here roughly 60 days ago, give a few. We all remember I was up here speaking about an issue. For those of us who don't know, I'm the executive director of the Bayonne PAL and their daycare center. As everyone is well aware, as it has been in the paper and stuff, we were hit with a lawsuit from 1968, which the plaintiff says he was sexually abused in 1968. So we're talking 54 years ago, almost 54 years ago. We had to hire an attorney, very expensive at that. Of course, most of the people in that era have passed on. I'm probably the oldest person left there, and at that time, I was a child myself playing basketball. So everyone's relying on my information that what's going on. The daycare center is a very important part of this city. It's the largest in the city. It has the most children in it. Most of them want a single family where the mother goes to work, knows her child will be safe all day and come back. Your child will be there. We have a 40 basketball youth center. Our teams compete almost all the way up through the summer. Some of the gentlemen up here and council president are sponsors, and we do appreciate that. However, I'm going to allude back to the year 1968. In 1968, the PAL, and our belief and our board of directors' belief, that once again, the city of Bayonne owned the PAL. It was run by police officers. They opened the doors. They maintained the building. They closed the building. If we needed structural work done, at the time I remember it was the great Mayor Dennis Collins. If we needed a new roof, Mayor Collins would just send everybody over a week later. So that confirms basically who was in charge, because the city is not going to fix your roof if they don't own the building. Let's be quite honest. Now, I came here 60 days ago, roughly, and asked for your help. So I waited. And much to my dismay, I haven't heard back from my friends who I helped get elected. I toted a lot of water for everybody up here. I backed everybody that's sitting there with my entire life. Only 2 people responded back to me monetarily. 1, a short, brief conversation, and 2 that did not. It's hurtful. This is not personal. This is business. What I do for a living over there impacts this whole city immensely, whether you know it or not. I don't have enough money to grow the program. I give free homework help to after-school children. I can't afford to get another teacher, so I have to limit class size. That's not Bayonne. Bayonne should always take care of its own. Now, Council President Nadrowski called me and said to me, look into the CARES Act, the Recovery CARES Act.
The ARPS.
Right. We turned it over to the people in our Senate, and we received a $125,000 grant. Thank you very much. Thank you. Now, for everyone who knows here, I am running for office. This did not happen when I was asked by the council president to run on her ticket. This was before. Make no bones about it. She reached out to help the children there. Mr. Galais, one of PAL's biggest supporters, sponsors teams. He's there 3 times a week. Even with his bad leg, he comes to his team's basketball games. Within 2 weeks, Mr. Galais raised thousands of dollars for the PAL from developers. We were able to continue. Mr. LaPalooza, I called, brief conversation, and I got his hands tied. Mr. Carroll, I couldn't do more for you when you wanted to be elected. I stepped in every picture for you and backed you 100%. And in 60 days, you haven't called me back. I find that, I don't want to say insulting, because I respect you as a man, but I did expect to hear back from you. Mr. Perez, the same thing. I backed you guys to the hill. And now that my kids need help, no one here is willing to step up because their hands are tied. Well, then somebody up there please explain to me what it is I need to do to untie this so that we may grow. Mr. Coffey, who I admire and has helped the PAL through its tumultuous times, thank you, Mr. Coffey, I appreciate that. Mr. Coffey is suggesting that we were a separate entity. I disagree, the board disagrees, and our attorney disagrees. We are hemorrhaging money now. We have reached $125,000 in attorney fees. No nonprofit can sustain that kind of money coming out of your budget, which you did not plan for, every month. It's impacting every service we have. We pick up every school in the city. We transport them so these people can earn a living, get off government subsidy, feel like they belong to America. And I can't get no help. And I don't understand why. We're all in this together, but it seems like we're not. You need to help me so I can help these kids. And no one's stepping up to the plate. Now, this suit, okay, it's from 1968. It's not only the PAL. I won't mention the other entities, but there are 5 other entities involved in the city. They have their own problems. I warned them, and they see what's coming down the road now for them. We can't sustain that. What upsets me the most is the loyalty I have shown to this administration, only to walk out with a knife in my back. I'm sorry, that's exactly how I feel. Now, it's a sexual assault on a child. God forbid, I hope it was not true. Nobody knows. Everyone has passed. But I find it appalling that the city can take care of its own sexual assault suits, defamation suits, harassment suits, but not the children that live and their parents work in this city. I'm not asking for a lot. I'm asking for help. And we do need it. I do not want this program to go down. I will not let it go down. I will find a way. The path would be easier if this council would find out why its hands are tied and find the funding that is needed.
I could just say, Mr. Trello, I offered you support last time. I'll gladly work with you to try and see. Our hands are tied by the administration, the law department, the mayor. That directive would have to come from them. But we would support you in any way and try and find you more funds, any more grants, any more money we can get you to hold you over until there's some resolution. Because as you say, you provide a service that we can't let fall because it provides a service for so many families that are in need. I'm going to go back to earlier today. We talked, we passed a resolution actually putting money behind domestic violence because we do a lot of talking and we say the children are our future, the children are our future, we take care of our own. But we really need to do more than just talk. We need to take action. We need to find a solution and work with you. And I'm willing to do that.
No, I thank you. I would like to hear from the rest of the council this time. The silence is not what I deserve. It's not what our kids deserve. I have a parents' meeting every month. I have to stand before them and explain to them what's going on.
So, Trello, what the request you're making, you want the city to cover the legal fees?
Mr. Coffey, again, that is between you and the other attorney, which I'm sure you've spoken to before. I know it's a gray area. I do understand that. I do. But I've asked for proof that the city was not liable at that time, such as payroll records, attendance sheets by the police officers, and I was told that they were washed away.
The Police Athletic League was established in 1947.
Correct.
You and I had seen that paperwork over and over and over and over again.
The daycare didn't exist until
Correct.
75.
Totally separate, distinct entity.
Right.
The daycare center should not be part of it. It's not a successor organization that you run. It's a separate and distinct organization from the Bayonne Police Athletic League, which was established in 1947.
But they're not suing the PAL.
But that's a different story. You and I agree on that the Bayonne PAL has nothing to do with the daycare center, but they've chosen to sue you and Little League, and...
I don't know, but I'm not...
It's public, it's a public document.
Okay, but I'm just...
So Little League is also, there's the football program was sued. All told, there are 5 defendants, I think it is, and there's a second suit that was filed. The first suit was, I believe, dismissed, and then they refiled.
Yes.
You and I are never going to agree about the separate entity that the city of Bayonne is from the Police Athletic League, and when you mentioned last time the PBA used to have their meetings there, we used to clear out the beer cans, the PBA is also a separate distinct entity from the city of Bayonne. Was the world a different place in 1968, 72? Yes, it was. There was a lot more handshake deals. Little League didn't have a lease. It was a different world, admittedly so. But Little League is a separate entity from the city of Bayonne. Bayonne PAL is a different entity from the city of Bayonne. Bayonne PAL Daycare is a different entity from the city of Bayonne. So from a legal standpoint, when you came 2 months ago, or 60 days ago, and you and I talked the next day, or a couple days later, rather heatedly, about what actually was was the operating procedure there at the PAL back in those days. What I can tell you from a legal standpoint, you were right. My job is to protect the city of Bayonne. So I don't want to have the city of Bayonne exposed to a potential lawsuit for this. That's my job. Your attorney has to do what he does, and the attorneys for the other entities have to protect their interests also. So if the request is to the municipal council that you're looking to have legal fees covered.
Well, legal fees, I'm looking for additional funding, okay? Whether it's used for legal fees is irrelevant.
Okay, now, I'm glad you said that. So if you're looking for something that will offset the amount of money that you're expending for legal fees, that's a separate thing than what you and I argued about. Well, the liability aspect is what I'm concerned about. If we say that the city did run the PAL, the city had something to do with the actual operations, the city had control over the individual defendant who allegedly committed these acts, that's a different story than you're looking for fiscal assistance from the city of Bayonne or some funds that the city may have. That doesn't expose us to liability. So that's a discussion you can have with the council, but that's not really what you asked for. Last time we were talking about who ran the PAL and that the city should stand in the stead of the PAL and bear the brunt of this litigation. I can't expose the city to, and I don't think the council wants to expose the city to the liability associated with litigation.
Absolutely.
What you're talking about, because if we do this for you, then do we hear from Little League, which also provides a fantastic service to the city of Bayonne, the children of the city of Bayonne, different than what you do. But again, it was the athletic part, the Bayonne PAL, that is actually the real malfeasor here, if they didn't watch over their coaches. Same thing with Little League. So that's a different story. On that, I can get on the same page as you and say, okay, maybe there's another way to offset these liabilities you're coming. And I don't think there's anybody besides me and you and maybe the mayor that understand how dire the straits can be for the PAL when it's not funded right. We worked for 2 years to get the PAL daycare back into the green. So that's a different story. But I think there are applications that can be made, there can be letters that can be written to the council that delineate what you're actually looking for. I can't sit here and tell you as the attorney for the city of Bayonne that we're going to expose ourselves to a lawsuit, become part of a lawsuit, facilitate some liability on the side of the city of Bayonne. But there are other avenues for you to, I understand, this is a cost that you have not anticipated. How do I offset that cost without putting the city of Bayonne in harm's way? That's something.
Well, my thing is, how do I make up for that loss? Do I fire people? I can't get qualified people.
But I think you're here saying, I'm looking for an avenue to access funds to offset that cost.
Correct.
Okay, that's a little bit different than what we talked about 60 days.
Yes, and that's what I'm asking for. Because childcare centers, the workers, they get paid well now. Bus drivers, if you know anything about bus drivers, they make more money than teachers today. You can't have enough of them. That's how important they are. I cannot afford to keep going at this pace. I'm going to have to put these children in the street. That should not be an option here. Not in Bayonne.
Understood.
Not in Bayonne.
But the approach has to be, how do I find additional funding? And you and I can talk tomorrow and have a much different conversation than we had 59 days ago, just like we did for a 2-year period where we tried to figure out what are the best avenues available to the Bayonne PAL.
Correct.
And that the mayor and I helped as much as we could, and you did a yeoman effort to try and right that wrong. But the fact of the matter is, that's a different request than what you made 60 days.
But that's what I'm making tonight. That's why I hit.
Okay, well then I think if you call me tomorrow, we can delineate what exactly you're looking for, and then that can be presented to the council next month.
Okay, but I still think you owned it, all right? So I'm just making...
You and I are going to have to play a game of basketball to settle that thing, because it's not, the bottom line is there are documents that show it's a separate, distinct entity. I don't care how you couch it. The City of Bayonne didn't run Little League, City of Bayonne didn't run Pop Warner, City of Bayonne didn't run PAL.
No, they ran the PAL.
No.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, council, for hearing me out, and I hope to hear from some of you this time. I would appreciate it. Remember, I did for you. Thank you for your time, everyone.
Thank you, and thanks for what you do for our children.
Ms. Lynch?
Good evening. My name is Julie Sanchez Lynch, 82 West 5th Street. Full disclosure, I'm running for First Ward Council person. My question is for Neil. Neil, do you know who your current campaign manager is?
Current campaign manager?
For the team.
This is the avenue to discuss politics.
Well, you're in the political chair, I'm not.
I'm in a governmental chair.
Okay, I'm not.
Okay.
Do you have an answer to that?
It wouldn't be appropriate to talk about that at this time.
Okay, are you aware your current campaign manager has secured a position with the city of Bayonne since he's become your campaign manager?
Like all of us here, we have campaign managers.
I'm talking about a specific one that just came on board. No answer? Okay, no answer. No answer. Okay.
Ms. High?
Camille High, 263 Avenue C. I have a quick question for you, City Council President. Now that the CR 20 has passed, I just wanted to know when the funds would be disseminated. Do you know when they will be dispersed to the organizations that will be working with the city?
Well, we have to qualify the organizations, right? So they have to apply for it and tell us what it is.
Okay, because that was my next question.
It's in effect immediately.
Okay.
That's what the ordinance reads. This goes into effect immediately.
And it will be an application process for those organizations to apply for?
Yeah, they can make a bid for the funds.
Okay, that will be made public, or?
It's not a bid, they could just make a request.
And how would they make a request?
They could just write a proposal and submit it to, does it go to you, Donna, or the law department? To request funds for the domestic violence funds that we allocated. So when we want to expend them, for different organizations, that ordinance says that qualified organizations are allowed to request those funds. Yes.
No, it's a resolution.
A resolution, sorry, a resolution. We did it at the beginning of the meeting, we moved it up first. Okay.
I didn't see it, I don't know. I'll have to look at it. There's sub-grantee agreements.
We'll set up that protocol. We will. We
Okay,
will.
I just wanted to know. Thank you.
I'll send it to you.
Thank you. That's it.
Yeah, no one gave me anything.
Mr. Grimes?
Good evening, council. My name is Edward Lefty Grimes. I'm with sativacross.org. We're a 501c3 here in New Jersey, fighting for disability rights and for cannabis patients' rights. I'm here today with Bongolio, and I am here as El Rampador, and we fight for wheelchair access in Bayonne and crosswalk access. We are happy to hear that there may be a solution for the intersection on 49th and Avenue C. Avenue C is deadly. When I was 10 years old, I saw a girl die on Avenue C. A girl got hit by a car at 47th. 2 years ago, a man was killed on 23rd Street. It's a very dangerous road. And you may be wondering why Bongolio is in a wheelchair. Well, Bongolio goes around to council meetings all over New Jersey fighting for cannabis patients. And one day he was crossing the crosswalk here on 49th and Bayonne. And what happened was he got hit by a car. A distracted driver came and ran over Bongolio and
Broke my leg.
broke his leg.
I have a broken leg.
So he's no longer able to function like the rest of us. And so, being in a wheelchair, Bongolio noticed a lot of problems around Bayonne. Specifically, the police station has no wheelchair access at night, which is problematic for many people that need to get into the police station. And it's not the only police station in New Jersey. South Amboy has issues, Brielle. There's a few. And we need to take care of our disabled vets. We need to take care of sick and dying people. And from what I understand, there's a lot of wheelchair issues in Bayonne with One Step. We actually have a thing where we subsidize signage in Bayonne. We actually, if your business in the UEZ has a sign, Bayonne Council or Bayonne Town will actually subsidize that. So I'm asking that Bayonne will subsidize wheelchair ramps for people that need wheelchairs. And we have tried everything to create awareness for these issues. And I think we finally have at our wit's end, have written a song. We don't know what else to do. Keep your wheelchairs home! Keep your wheelchairs home! So we're going to play a song right now. That's not the song. There we go. Keep your wheelchairs home! Keep your wheelchairs home! Sorry, the song didn't start where I wanted it to start. Here we go. Thank you, Council. Thank you for allowing us to play our song here and make our music video. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Benvolio.
You're welcome.
How's your leg?
Not good.
How are you gonna get out of that thing?
I don't know.
I can't believe you get in that thing. The things you go through for activism.
Just want people to understand the importance of it.
This is an important issue. So I hope we've tried everything, so hopefully maybe this will get through. If not, we'll try something else. We'll keep going.
Thank you, Mr. Grimes.
Thank you.
Mr. Flora? Come on up.
I think I'm going to have to skip my question.
Do you want him to play guitar? He can
No,
accompany.
I can't. I mean, the reason why I'm asking my question, the reason why, because I see what they're saying, talking about speed. When I first come over here, I see that too, because I was saying, because I live on 25th Street at the corner. So before, you used to just come by. When there is traffic, you wait, and someone can go that way. Traffic behind you can pass by. But the new McDonald's over there was remodeled. Since they remodeled, basically, they just closed the street. I used to live in New York before, and I saw it in New York, where you close the street to stop traffic from floating around. So what they did, they come on the street, they stop traffic. But McDonald's, so basically, you really have to go slow, or you have to wait for that car in front of you to go, and then before you could go. Before, it used to be like, okay, you just go in the middle, you stop right here, and the car behind you can go that way and comes in. Now, the McDonald's entrance that way, all the way to 25th Street, and they have like 3 or 5 entrances. You don't need 5 entrances for McDonald's. I mean, I don't really like McDonald's as much, but at the same time, I do know that the remodel of the street, the zone, the board is very nice. But at the same time, to close the main traffic on Broadway doesn't need it. You know, it's very like slow. Like for this, if you could see this right here in front of me, that's very nice. But for them, they want slowness. But for people who has car in the morning, if you have to go this way, you stop, let me go, and I'm waiting. So if I'm waiting, so basically I cannot go. If you're behind me, I basically have to wait for traffic to clear out. So now what they did, they had come to the street, in the middle of the street. So basically just to make sure people slow down. But before it was just free traffic, you can just go slow and keep going. But now they basically close the street or say, oh, you have to be careful right here because there's an entrance. People have to go get food. It doesn't need it. I mean,
I'll just tell you that I know there's been a number of complaints and a number of issues with the McDonald's new drive-through and the exit and entrance and even inside the parking lot itself. And my understanding is that that McDonald's itself is reworking the traffic flow. Are you aware of that, Chief, or no? Right? I mean, I think we're working with McDonald's on changing that traffic flow because of the issues. But I'll have Chief Geisler, I think you were involved in that, right?
Good evening, Council. Yes, there has been some issues over there. If you notice, we put those orange stakes in the middle. We had people crossing the lane of traffic. Also, we have been in contact with them, and they are exploring possibly changing the traffic plan over there.
Yeah, so we are aware of it, and we are looking at it, because it is a major issue.
I'm very, very happy to hear that they're trying to work on that. I was the lone no vote on that because I knew there was a safety issue after looking at that. Also, the corner, the way the corner comes out, when people want to make a left turn from 25th Street, they have to come all the way out, very close to the cars waiting in the opposite direction. So there has to be some movement on that as well. So I don't know if that's part of the conversation, but it should be. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief.
Mr. Vince?
Good evening, everybody. George Vince, 36 East 29th Street. I'm sure you're all tired, so I'll be brief. But before I begin, I'd like to say, after a performance like that, how could you want to, shorten the public's ability to come up here and speak? I think you guys did a great job. I was originally coming up here with one thing in mind, but then after I heard KT's speech about the PAL, it dawned on me how much of a part of my life and many of the other residents' lives the PAL is and what it's done for us. And I think to hear that it's in trouble now, and more importantly, he wasn't getting any assistance is extremely disheartening. But I'm happy to have heard that, he's going to be working with Mr. Coffey to put together a proposal. And seeing as how that's the case, and it's due to come up in front of the council at the next meeting, provided it makes sense, of course, can we have your commitment that you will do everything humanly possible to make sure we keep the PAL as a part of the Bayonne family and the Bayonne community? Anybody?
I say yes.
Thank you, Mr. Drowski.
Absolutely. Made that commitment 60 days
Mr.
ago.
Perez?
Absolutely.
All right. Mr. Glaze? All right, thank you. Very happy to hear that. And one more thing. Going back to, I believe it was number 9 on the first full disclosure, I am running for 2nd Ward City Council, just so we're clear. But the ordinance with the Silk Lofts West, I'm not going to point any fingers, but I heard somebody say that we might want to move it along because there are some people that need to be placed, so it'd be a good idea to have something like that for them, I guess. But also, there was a comment made that at a community meeting, more like political rally, that if there were people who needed placement, that they should reach out to one of these council members, and they'd be happy to position them or get them placed, which is, nice and whatnot. But the people at that meeting, and again, it was a meeting, it wasn't a political rally, do you honestly think these individuals could afford $2,200 a month for a studio, maybe, or a one-bedroom? Because I was there, and I could tell you, it's not really the case.
Mr. Vince, and you're my friend, too. You understand that's the point I'm making, right?
Okay.
That they can't afford that rent, and
All
they're
right.
being displaced.
Displaced.
Right.
Okay. So they're being
you're with me on
displaced,
this.
so you want to move forward with the Silk Lofts West. You think you should move forward with that for these people who have been displaced?
You're saying we should move forward with it.
No, that's what you said. No?
I think
I
Mr.
think you're
Carroll was saying we should move ahead on the vote and not table it.
Oh,
Right? Is that what you
okay.
were saying? I think, right? You
I
said,
don't think that was ever brought up.
yeah, we were tabling the vote.
No,
It was tabled,
Yeah.
Okay.
right? And then I said my piece about these individuals and their needs.
Right. And I had added to that if they needed help, that I would try and help them in any way I could, whether that would be to try and find some funds for them or another place to live, that I would do my best. That's what I added.
So I appreciate it. You agree. We're together on this. And help out
Well,
if you
then,
can.
I
Anything we can do.
apologize.
Yeah, it's all
my
good, man. Don't worry.
misunderstanding, because I got to be honest, when I heard that,
Been a long meeting.
it has.
That's all right.
It has, but it's been a great. All right, so thank you for that. Greatly appreciate it, and that's it. You guys have, one more thing. I found this outside, so I don't know if it belongs to anybody here. I can just leave it with you guys.
What is
A
it?
little lost and found. I don't know. It's like a case holder or something for a
A
phone.
camera case or something? You could just leave it up there, yeah.
We'll put it in the lost and found.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, before we move on to the last speaker on the sheet, are there any hands raised online? And he's gone.
Somebody said something.
Jonathan, do you have any public speakers?
I knew we had Gail who wanted
No,
to speak.
ma'am, no hands raised online.
Okay. Last one up is Mike Morris.
Thank you, but I respectfully decline. Thank
Okay. You're welcome.
Can you just reach out to Gail Kadeski, because she did say she was going to come back, because her hand wasn't answered before? Did she talk during public comment already? I don't know.
She spoke once or twice.
No, but she said she wanted to because she wasn't heard. Gail, if you're there, you can raise your hand, but maybe you went to sleep already. Okay, then we can continue.
Okay.
I just want to make sure.
015 is an ordinance amending and supplementing the revised general ordinances of the City of Bayonne, Chapter 35, zoning regulations, and a resolution fixing Wednesday, April 20th at 7 p.m. in the Dorothy E. Harrington Council Chambers as a time and place for a public hearing and final passage. Would like to move it.
Move it.
Second.
And on that ordinance for introduction,
Still want to speak.
go ahead, unmute her.
Can we finish the vote on this one first?
Do you want to take the vote, or you want to let her speak first?
Right after that, we can
Okay.
let her speak.
Hold on, Gail. On the introduction, Mr. Carroll.
Aye.
Mr. Galais. Mr. La Palusa?
Aye.
Mr. Perez?
Aye.
Ms. Nadrowski?
What is this for?
This for the
015.
fixing...
Yeah, no, but I just,
015.
honestly, I haven't had a chance to read it.
Okay, it's for introduction.
I know, but
Okay.
again, it's, what I did get to read of it, because it's kind of long, it's a big change from what I was expecting. I was told it was going to be a few changes to something we had spent a lot of time on, and it's completely different. And I, in good conscience, I don't know if everyone else has time to read this. Has everyone had time to read this ordinance?
No, it is for introduction like we normally say, so.
But I think we're introducing something that I know I would never feel I have a lot of questions on. So to introduce something that has a lot of questions, I just find it to be not useful because we can't amend it that much. It wouldn't be de minimis. I mean, it's a completely different resolution. So, I mean, I know I haven't had the chance to review it, so I am not comfortable voting on it. I can't vote on something I haven't reviewed. I haven't had time to look at.
Okay.
So you abstain, right?
She's voting no. Okay, Gail? You can unmute Gail Godesky.
Good evening once again, and I did continue to have my hand raised, so I don't know what's going on with the webinar consultant there, but good evening again. Thank you for affording me the opportunity to speak on the ordinances that I did in fact have my hand raised. The one I really want to talk about is Mont Carmel. I don't know why Mont Carmel wasn't voted for since the building is going to remain the same. I really feel that that project is historic. Mont Carmel has been years and years and years, and I think it would be an added value to the area.
Ms. Godesky, I don't want to interrupt you, but we did vote on it, and it did pass 3-2.
Oh, okay.
Mr. Carroll and Mr. La Palusa were no.
Okay, very good. Thank you for that. The other one was the CAS-CAM. I know a lot of the projects were postponed, and I do remember reading an article that our mayor wanted to put a pause on development. I'm happy to see that they have been postponed, except for one thing. During the CAS-CAM, Councilman La Palusa recused himself, which is very odd because he did not keep with his consistent no on the projects. And looking back in records, 10/21/21, $2,500, that rings the bell. So now I understand why he recused himself from that, particular postponement. Two other questions. Did we ever receive the no conflict letter for the food bank money, Mr. Coffey?
Yes.
And how does that stand now?
It stands that our legal counsel came in and talked to everybody, and they have to have another meeting with Melissa this week, early next week. And that money, the $10,000 that's being held in the city's account at this juncture, I believe, Council President, you've been speaking with Samantha Howard regarding how that money could be freed up to be provided to other entities on a reimbursement basis.
Yes. We're going to, the point on this, Gail, is this money's been sitting there held up for quite a while. It's not serving anyone in that capacity. So I was working with Samantha Howard from BUF, and she was working with her auditors because it also poses a problem for audits of money sitting there unspent. So we were talking about ways we are going to partner and do potentially a food drive at Easter, a give out with some local churches and food pantries, registered food pantries and nonprofits, as a way to get this out there.
Finally, thank you so much for that. And the other question, did we ever receive the $500,000 from the county for the walkway to nowhere? Ms. Mauer?
No. You can't see her on camera, but she was shaking her head no. No. We have not received it, because if we received it, the council would be notified and accept it.
Okay, thank you for that. And Director Carter, what's going on with the 25th Street Bridge? I read an article that the equipment is in storage. What's going on with that? Did the state, everybody approve it? Did Conrail approve it? Are we moving forward? What's the story on that?
I don't think that's Mr. Carter. Would you know about that? The pedestrian walk bridge?
No, I'm talking about the 25th Street Bridge.
Well, the one that was in storage was the walk bridge. You're talking about the bridge?
Going over to Prospect, from Avenue E to Prospect?
Yeah, that bridge is, yes, it's being worked on by not DPW, it's being worked on through our engineering and buildings department and planning, right? It's not being.
It went out to bid and then it was awarded, so.
Yes, but the understanding, Ms. Gadesky is referring to the news article that said the bridge was already built and in storage somewhere. Now, you want to come up and talk, please? Our city planner would probably be best, more qualified to answer that than Mr. Cotter. No disrespect, I just know you're not involved.
Oh, okay, thank you, sorry about that.
Not totally.
Yes, Rob Russo is in charge of that one project. I can find out in the morning and get it to everybody, and we can get it to Gail, the answer to the question. I read the article also, but there's not a bridge.
Okay.
It was awarded for the work.
Okay.
I'll get you the information tomorrow.
Thank you.
Oh, I'll be on Friday. Well,
okay, we'll get it to you by early next week.
We'll get it from Rob Russo. I can text him, though.
Okay.
He's been texting back and forth.
I'm sorry, it was muffled, what was the answer?
Okay, Mr. Russo is on vacation. He comes back on Friday, and Ms. Mack will get you the information, and we will share it with you.
Thank you very much. And one more thing, this is for, I guess, Director of Public Safety maybe, and DPW. Driving around town, I noticed a lot of the signs, the hospital signs, no turn on red, are hidden by some trees, and also they're very faded. So just a suggestion, maybe between the parking authority, the meter maids, and the police, if you're driving around and you see a sign, you could put it on a pad and pass it so we can get new crisp signs. I see a lot of people turning on red during the hours that they're not supposed to, so maybe we could all pitch in and get something going to put fresh signs up around town.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Have a good evening.
You too.
Next item is an ordinance establishing Chapter 39 recreational cannabis to the revised general ordinances of the City of Bayonne, and a resolution fixing Wednesday, April 20th at 7 p.m. in the Dorothy E. Harrington Council Chambers as a time and place for public hearing and final passage.
Second.
And on that resolution for introduction, Mr. Carroll.
Aye.
Mr. Galais.
Aye.
Mr. La Palusa.
Aye.
Mr. Perez.
Aye.
Ms. Nadrowski.
Again, I haven't had time to read it, so no.
You still have a raised hand by, was it Godeshi?
Oh, Ms. Gadesky, okay? Is she re-raising on the ordinance?
Hi, good evening. I'm
that's-
Melissa Gadesky Rodriguez, 148 Avenue F. I already expressed my frustration once. I'm pretty tech savvy, and I can just tell you that my concerns around the moderator of Tetherview, imagine being a member of the public. I'm sitting here at 10:15. I'm here because I care, right? I'm here because I believe in the city of Bayonne, and I want my voice to be heard, as we've all been talking about tonight. And I really hope that outside of what I really want to speak about, the city council reassesses how Tetherview is being run and how efficiently it's being run, because it's creating some frustrations from people on this side, especially for the tech savvy ones. I don't have to restart my computer. So just voicing my opinion about that. So on the east side, I live on Avenue F, and as you know, there's only 2 lights. This becomes a raceway every night. Every night it's a raceway. Somebody is going to get killed on Avenue F. Most of the people racing are from a lot of different buildings. Now, maybe this could be because they're not aware of the speed limit. Let's give everybody the benefit of the doubt. I'm a big believer in that. Maybe they're unaware of the fact that there are some stop signs, that there is 2 lights that they have to stop at and not go through. Somebody is going to get hurt. We have a lot of children. We have a school. We have a park that's being redone, right? We want our children to play safe. We have a walkway park behind us. And I can tell you that a few years ago, actually, Councilman Galais, he jumped in immediately, got some notices put up, and it did stop for a little while. I can tell you that it's getting worse. We have a lot of buses too. On my block alone, 4 kids get picked up by a bus. And I can tell you that people don't care about that bus. And these are children with special needs getting on these buses, okay? We need to do something. We either need to put more stop signs, put another light. I know, and I don't want to talk about the ordinance because I know that money is being allocated for some specific projects. But how do we fix this? How do we stop this before a child? It's gonna, if it's gonna be anybody, it's sad to say, it could wind up being a child gets killed. I understand that we're only X amount of blocks in Bayonne, but we still matter just as much as the rest of the city. And I would really like, an opinion on what you guys think and how we can come to a solution that's, of course, cost effective, but putting the safety of the residents over here first.
Well, Ms. Gadetsky, I'd just first like to say, I don't think that there's a cost limit on child safety or pedestrian safety in general. But like you say, maybe some people are new to the area and don't know the speed limit. So Chief Geisler, is it possible that we could get that speed limit sign that comes up and lets people know that they're speeding? So that on Avenue F, so that people are aware of what the speed limit is and what they're going?
Yes, Council President, we'll take some steps to try and rectify that problem.
Yeah,
Like we did down on Fifth Street and Avenue A for a bit.
Yeah, we move that around town to
Yep.
areas that are are problematic, we'll say. So you may be right, and maybe people really don't know because they're coming off of 440 and they're trying to bypass the street lights sometimes, so they think that it's the same speed limit. So we can do some education by putting the message board.
Yeah, we
What do you
have
call
a number of steps we could take to try and rectify that problem.
Okay.
Ms. Gadetsky, this is Councilman Perez. We had the same situation on Prospect, and some of the people there came to see me. They said the same thing. They were racing through there. They were in a hurry. They were trying to take a shortcut so they won't be on 440 when it was backed up. So I talked to Chief Geisler, and they did send a group of officers who enforced the laws there, and then everything slowed down, everything stopped. They did a great job. I'm hoping they'll do the same thing now.
Thank you, and I truly believe every time Bayonne PD has gotten involved, they do a tremendous job. I believe we have some of the best. And I know there's a lot of other important things to do, but it kills me every day that I watch out the window and my son gets on a bus, and I know other kids get on the bus, and it just takes one driver who's speeding to try to beat the light to get to 30th Street to make the right onto 440 for somebody to get hurt. So I appreciate the urgency to this. And I'm sure the other residents do as well. So thank you guys very much.
Thank you.
We still have one hand raised, Doreen Freda from Comtech. But it also looks like she may not be able to, cannot unmute her, so we'll have to look at that. Doreen, if you can enter your PIN, that should allow you to be unmuted.
Oops, sorry. I guess I was right. Yep.
Wait. Is she?
One moment, I'm going to see if we can get Doreen muted by sending her PIN through his chat. Bear with me.
Okay.
Do you want me to do 017 while we wait?
Yeah, we can just move on to the
Okay.
next one. Whatever.
017 is an ordinance amending and supplementing the revised general ordinances of the City of Bayonne, Chapter 7 Traffic, and a resolution fixing Wednesday, April 20th at 7 p.m. in the Dorothy E. Harrington Council Chambers as a time and place for public hearing and final passage.
So move.
Thank you.
Second.
And on that resolution, Mr. Carroll.
Aye.
Mr. Galais. Mr. La Palusa?
Aye.
Mr. Perez?
Aye.
Ms. Nadrowski?
Aye.
The communications agenda is moved by the council as a whole. It's a resolution ordering the following communications to be received and filed. It covers C1 through C28. Are there any questions on the communications? No questions on the communications. Mr. Carroll?
Aye.
Mr. Galais? Mr. La Palusa?
Aye.
Mr. Perez?
Aye.
Ms. Nadrowski?
Aye.
Officers' reports is a resolution moved by the council as a whole.
I have questions on OR1, so.
Okay, so we'll take OR1 off. Ordering the following officers' reports to be received and filed, and any resolutions incorporated within them to be adopted. So it covers OR2. Who would like, no, we don't need that. And any questions on OR2? No questions. Mr. Carroll?
Aye.
Mr. Galais?
Aye.
Mr. La Palusa?
Aye.
Mr. Perez?
Aye.
Ms. Nadrowski?
Aye. And do you want to read OR1 before I ask, or, I don't know?
OR1 is from Donna L. Maurer, Chief Financial Officer, reporting on the vendor payments and recommending payment of the same, and a resolution adopting the recommendation and ordering payment of the claims. Who would like to move it?
I have questions first, so. Just a question, so I see on the claims, on the confirm and ratify, right? We have Bespoke, $932,000, almost $1 million, $975. And then we also have them on the claims list for another $366,000, bringing the total to 1.3. So this is, are these two separate bills? Is this one? And is this ongoing? Because I thought we were winding down.
We are winding down.
So this is for...
The one on the ratify and confirm was for vaccination and testing.
For what
That was
time
for
period?
the January.
That's just January, okay.
And then the one on the bills list is for February.
So I would like to ask a question. Were we given any consideration for the tests that weren't done? Because there was like hundreds of tests that they gave and nobody got results for.
I don't know anything about that.
And I was one of them,
Right.
so that's why I'm
Just
asking.
Pay the bills.
Well, I mean, somebody should look at that. I mean, honestly, we paid for services that the residents didn't
We've been
get.
reimbursed 100% for everything that we've paid out so far. So as soon as we pay these, we submit it into FEMA, and we've gotten the money back. So anything from 2021, we've received all the money already. We have to pay it out first, and then we submit it, we get reimbursed. Usually takes.
Right, but especially that first week of January, there was a lot.
But they
And we were
are-
told that, you know, you're not going to get it, you're just not going to get the
invoices
result.
are checked by the health department. I know they did make some changes, that invoices come in, they check them, and then I don't pay them until they tell me it's okay.
And they have rectified discrepancies that were discovered in the bill submissions, and they've worked that out with FEMA and with Bespoke. But Bespoke is done as of March 31st, I think it is.
But in following up on Mr. La Palusa's, we're just talking about, even if we are reimbursed by FEMA, if the company didn't provide this service, they shouldn't be paid for it. Because there was a lot, hundreds of missed tests that
There was
no
a
one got results.
2-week period, yeah.
I think
Yeah.
more than that.
And I think it was
But I'm just saying, so we
terrible.
shouldn't, even if it is FEMA money, it doesn't mean people should be paid for work they're not doing.
Like, the health department does sign off on it.
I know, but are they, I know, like, I could tell you my father
but-
didn't get his results back, and he didn't call the health department and say, hey, I didn't get my results back.
So I was sick for like 5 days, I had to use my sick time. If I had tested positive, right, my job would have given me those days without charging me sick time. But I'll never know because they never processed the PCR test that they
So
took.
I guess that's
And
the
I think that's a
question.
terrible thing, and I don't want to pass this until I find out from the health department whether they credited us for that. Whether it's paid for by FEMA or not, I think that's the right thing.
I agree.
I think we can go back to Chief Weaver and have him look at that, let's say that's the January, no, when was that, the December?
December,
I-
it was December.
I
know
I
the week
thought it
between
was the
Christmas and
first
New Year.
week of January, but I
I
could-
know,
yeah.
well, I know my father tested the week between Christmas and New Year's and never got his results
Yeah,
back.
it was around there, you might be right, the two-week period
So I
after
think,
Christmas
I
and
think
the first week.
what can be done is we can go to Chief Weaver, who's been doing the FEMA reimbursements, have Bespoke speak to the tests that were not completed, that nothing was provided to us. And then if there's an adjustment to be made, that adjustment would have to go from Chief Weaver to FEMA for approval and review, and then that adjustment had to be made by Bespoke back to us. So let's say that we didn't get $40,000 worth of services, Bespoke would have to refund us the $40,000, then Chief Weaver would then have to reimburse that money to FEMA to zero things out.
I think that's fair.
All right, so we're not voting on this then? We're going to wait for next month?
Well, we don't know.
Well, I think vaccination services, yeah, because the
Yeah.
vaccination services are
So you want to
flat rate.
take the Bespoke, the
Whatever.
ratify and confirm out?
I don't know,
Or you
whatever.
want to take both out?
They both say vaccination. Oh, no, they both say vaccine. I don't know how, if you could tell the difference.
Yeah, I think that the step is that, because we don't know if they took those off.
The testing we could pay, the testing we don't want to pay, the vaccines we can pay, because the vaccines were distributed.
Okay.
If you can figure that out in some.
That would be independent of, each month is different. So we're going to have to go back, because we've been reimbursed already for almost every month. Through 2021, we'd be reimbursed. So these monies don't have anything to do with those monies. It's a specific month-by-month
We understand
reimbursement
that.
process.
Okay.
So if you pass these, it doesn't affect,
Well, this one does, because it says 120. So that would have been paying for the time.
Right, but they're only
this-
questioning the testing. Wasn't the testing only 1 month? I believe the testing was only 1 month by Bespoke.
but in any event, the paperwork has already been submitted down to FEMA. This one hasn't?
It gets submitted until we pay.
Okay.
Okay, so you understand?
Yep.
Okay. And then I have one other question on Crystal Clear Video Productions. We took that off of our meeting.
Right.
We never entered into a contract with them because I had questions.
It'll be on next, it'll be presented before
But
next
we-
month. We're under the quote threshold. It doesn't require, we paid 2 invoices, which is under the quote threshold. We've obtained 1 quote. I'm waiting for Amy to get back. She said she had another quote.
But how do we, but my problem is if we send something out we do business, and so you already picked the person because you're doing business with them without getting the quotes to see if they were the lowest, and then because you're still waiting for the quotes, we're paying this person even if they might not be.
Right, because the quote, you have a threshold that you can spend before you actually have to obtain quotes.
I understand the threshold, so it allows people to circumvent getting the best price for the taxpayer.
We're not circumventing it. We're not. We have the quotes, and it'll be presented at next month. I wasn't aware that it was pulled. I had to leave the meeting, so I just found this out. It was taken care of. So I just found it out.
So if it comes in that one of the other people are the lower bidder, but this person already got it at a higher rate, and we have to pay them because they have the service, they already provided the service.
Right, and we're paying them for January and February.
Yeah, I understand that, but it kind of just seems a little counterproductive, if we're gonna, if we know a contract's gonna be worth over the threshold, but we just piecemeal it out so we don't have to do a big.
That's not true. That's why it's presented to council.
But it wasn't passed and it still was executed upon, basically. You still went and got the services even though we didn't pass
The
it.
service is for a year, so they're doing 2 months. They're doing 2
Exactly,
months.
that's what I have a problem with. So if you understand, so I'm saying,
I can't help, it was pulled in January, right?
yes.
I wasn't notified. No one notified me. I wasn't aware of it. I wasn't aware of it until I went into the system and there wasn't a PO, there wasn't a blanket to pay it off. And I said, why isn't there a blanket? Get me a copy of the resolution. And then that's when I found out the resolution was pulled. So as soon as I found that out, I asked the reason why. I called the purchasing agent,
and I said, can you obtain quotes for this service so we can award this contract? She's been out sick, I emailed her, she said, I have one and I'm waiting for one. So she's supposed to return tomorrow, and I'll get them tomorrow.
Okay, I understand the process, I'm just,
That's the purchasing, I mean,
but,
I don't think everyone understands what my position is, right?
I know your position is to pay the bills when they come in.
My position is to pay bills.
So who, all right, so,
To make sure there are funds available.
so then the question is,
I mean, I know because I've worked in government a long time with the rules, but that's up to the purchasing agent and whoever's asking for the service to make sure that everything is done properly.
okay, I understand it's not you. I know, I completely understand it's not on you, it's the person.
So if we had somebody that did work, we owe them funds, so we don't pay them.
Yes.
They sue us, so I paid them.
I know we pay them, and they assume, but just to say that if we don't have a contract, and the person who wants the work done is, if just the worker in City Hall says, I'm going to go do it, even though the council hasn't approved it, I'm going to go spend the monies, and the city's is going to be on the hook for it, even though I haven't had the proper approvals.
What action would you like to take?
Brett, I don't understand. I mean,
I was just asking why we're doing, when this was pulled, because it didn't have the proper quotes with it, we still went out and solicited work, not only that month, but the next month. We did additional work without having the contract in place. So I guess the
agent is notified.
It was explained to the best of the ability present. Where would we like to go?
I would like to have the administration, when we don't have a contract in place, okay, they did work, and because they thought a contract was going to get approved, but they didn't have everything ready for it because they didn't do the right number of quotes, they didn't get quotes, so now they did, but, so we did work in January, fine. And now you didn't get a contract, but you still did more work and put the city on the hook without a contract again the next month.
But the council, at this point in time, it doesn't require council approval. Even quotes don't go to council. That's up to the purchasing agent.
I understand
to get
that.
quotes and then find.
But it's a little
the best possible
disingenuous
price.
to say, when I can do the first couple of months until I get over the quote bid,
No, it was
and then
done
go
already,
out.
Sharon, it was done already. It wasn't that I said, oh, let me sneak this in. It was already done, is what I'm saying. They did the work, we owe them the money.
No, they did the work.
Paying them
No.
the money. It wasn't done, I was not aware. It wasn't done after the fact. I was not aware.
No, I'm not saying you, I'm not saying your process, I'm talking about the process of the person who did the work, who ordered the work, not knowing they didn't have a contract to charge it
They
against.
didn't know. They gave a proposal, we put a resolution on. They assumed, right, we put the resolution on that the resolution would be adopted. So the person doesn't know until the city calls them up and says, hey, don't do this work. You know, you aren't sorry, your contract wasn't awarded, don't do this work.
Donna, whose responsibility was to let you know that the item is full?
I don't know.
Well, I think the issue, there's competing, I'm sorry?
Our thing went off.
There's,
Our Tetherview, I guess their time expired,
Our
they
time
closed our
expired.
meeting.
our bill, did you pay the bill for Tetherview?
They
But
should-
I think what, it just went off?
Yeah, it says Tetherview closed your webpage.
Yeah, go 7 to
At the
10.
organizer.
Well, we can bring back the music, maybe he'll,
All right, so, okay.
so there's a competing thing. So there's the local public contracts law, and then there's what the purchasing agent has the authority to do without having to go to council for approval. Our history has been, for the most part, for the last 32 years I've been here, is that almost every single contract comes up and goes before the council. There are, now, back in the day, it was like 17,005, now it's 48,000 and change, more than that, as far as what the limit is. So I'll sit with the purchasing agent, and we'll walk through protocols that we can prevent this from happening going forward.
Okay, thank you. That was it, just an administrative fix.
And to answer Donna's question, Mr. Perez's question, after every meeting, you get a final agenda, and items will show what's pulled, what's approved, and everything else, and you get copies of whatever resolutions pass at that meeting. So it's the city clerk's responsibility to let you know. You get a final agenda, you get the passed resolutions. So I don't know, how you didn't know that it was pulled.
When I looked for the resolutions, to set
Okay.
it up. That's when I said, wait, there's no resolution.
Okay.
And that's when
But
I said-
that's the process after a meeting.
Right.
So,
So there you go.
going
So the
forward.
process
So are
is,
we amending this, or are we voting on this as it is?
well, is there any other questions, first of all? Was I the only one with questions, me and Gary?
Can I ask a quick question?
I had a question.
Oh, we only
Yeah.
got multiple
No,
questions.
no, but I did ask a question.
Yeah, I
You
know,
said
yeah,
you were
that's what I'm
the
saying.
only
No, I
one.
said, no, besides me and Gary, is there any, wait, a minute. Go ahead.
I was just wondering, Best Maids, I thought was owned by a city employee. Is that a conflict of interest?
What is it? What's the name of it?
Best Maids, I
Best.
thought
Best
was
Maids?
a city employee's business. I could be wrong, but I was pretty sure it was.
Best Maids.
It's cleaning services for the traffic unit, Best Made.
It's a COVID clean, Hook Road.
Well, Seaberger did cleaning and we paid him and he's a city employee.
Was that his company?
Best Maids New Jersey LLC.
Correct, that cleaning for the traffic division, I don't know who owns that.
Okay, well, I guess we can look
We
into
can
it.
look into that.
Gary, did you have something else?
No.
Well, I'm going to say that, I mean, they provided the service, so we're going to have to pay them, so I'm fine with passing, that, but I don't know what we do with what you want us to do with this. Do you want us to take out the one item for bespoke, or how are we going to handle passing this?
You could take the, yeah.
I mean, it's,
Take the testing from bespoke out,
okay, and then we'll
because that's what
pass-
we have the question with.
So, Madeline, this will be, we're passing both of these minus the bespoke.
But do we know a dollar amount for the testing, or no? You're saying
She
it
will
has to
fill
be
it- she
broken
can-
down?
It's got to, Chief Weaver, who eats, sleeps, and breathes this stuff, right, but we have to figure out how many tests were done, how many tests were paid for, and then the more important thing is, how many tests we weren't provided the results with. And
So
that-
this hasn't, but the point is, for right now, she can figure out how much of this was for vaccines, and we can pay that amount
Correct.
now. That'll be
Yeah,
approved. The
that's fine.
vaccine
The
amount will be
testing
approved
would be
now.
the one, right.
The testing will be approved next month. How's that? That's good? Okay. Are you good with that, Madeline?
I'm fine.
I move that.
Well, you're moving to receive it and file it, and on receiving and filing, Mr. Carroll.
Aye.
Mr. Galais.
Aye.
Mr. La Palusa?
Aye.
I think I'm
Mr.
getting-
Perez?
Aye.
Ms. Nadrowski?
Aye. Can we find out if we're broadcasting this, because it is still a public meeting? And,
It's still not being recorded.
Oh, okay. We are.
okay.
The
Thank you.
speaker, Doreen, was she ever connected? Before I go
That's
forward.
not running anymore.
Here to dial in, she's still available, asking questions about the piece. She's asking if there's a good contact person or we should reach out tomorrow.
Okay. She can call me tomorrow, and I'll,
I'll copy and paste it into the chat.
okay. She can email me, actually, and I'll work with her with whatever she needed.
Sounds good. What's the good email address?
M. Medina, it's MEDINA, @BAYNJ.org.
Got it.
Okay. Consent agendas is moved by the council as a whole. It covers CR 1 through CR 24. We have pulled CR 16, and it is adopting all the resolutions incorporated within the consent resolution. Are there any questions on the consent resolutions? No questions on the consent resolutions. Mr. Carroll?
Aye, and with respect to CR 16, I know that this has been an ongoing situation, but I implore all departments involved with this to reach out to the group that's affected and just update them on the situation and causes for moving it to next month.
Right.
Or-
Don and I are going to sit tomorrow about that.
Mr. Galais?
Aye.
Mr. La Palusa?
Aye.
Mr. Perez?
Aye.
Ms. Nadrowski?
Aye.
R1 is approving the temporary emergency number 3 in the calendar year 2022's budget. Would like to move it?
Move it.
Second.
And on R1, Mr. Carroll.
Aye.
Mr. Galais.
Aye.
Mr. La Palusa.
Aye.
Mr. Perez.
Aye.
Ms. Nadrowski.
Aye.
R2 is approving budgetary transfer number 2 in the calendar year 2021.
Move.
Second.
And on the resolution, Mr. Carroll.
Aye.
Mr. Galais.
Aye.
Mr. La Palusa.
Aye.
Mr. Perez.
Aye.
Ms. Nadrowski.
Aye.
R3 is affirming that the council members have read, at a minimum, the comments and recommendations of the section of the calendar year 2020 audit, and you will be signing an affidavit that you have done so.
So move.
Second.
I wanted Ms. Mauer to, oh, next one, okay, go ahead.
Okay, first we got to get these signed.
Oh, I heard you told me to know good.
I was going to Gabby Lapalusa.
It looks like Doreen was able to actually call in if you wanted to unmute her just for a moment.
Sure, I'll unmute you. Oh, I don't know. Can I don't think I can, Madeline. This is just a regular person here. I'll unmute. Okay, one moment. Oh, can you unmute her? We don't have access to her. We're,
Okay, it should be unmuting now.
hi, Doreen. Can you hear us? Doreen, are you there?
Her name is Doreen.
Doreen. No, there is a name. Okay. Well, we'll continue on, Madeline.
Okay, so on R3, Mr. Carroll.
Aye.
Mr. Galais.
Aye.
Mr. La Palusa.
Aye.
Mr. Perez.
Aye.
Ms. Nadrowski.
Aye.
R4 is adopting the corrective action plan in response to the calendar year 2020 audit.
I'm just going to ask that Ms. Mauer just read out the few corrective actions.
First, the recommendations that were made in the findings were from the 2020 audit, so they've all been taken care of.
Okay.
The only one is the first one, which is the fixed assets, which we are working on. I have someone in my office working on it. We're going to work with the Department of Public Works to get a current list and put together a policy. We have a list that we just don't have a policy for disposing. So we add new things on the list, but when we sell things or get rid of stuff, they're not removed from the list. So we have to keep a current list in the general ledger.
And when we say list, do we actually mean like a piece of paper list?
Yes, we have it in our financial system.
Oh, but no, we have it in the system, right?
Yes,
Right,
yes.
So it does depreciation.
It can even be a spreadsheet. It's anything over 5,000, that's over $5,000. So it's basically vehicles, heavy-duty equipment, buildings,
Okay.
so,
I just.
yeah, we're working
I'm just
on it.
making sure we don't have it on like some piece of paper.
No, no.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, back of an envelope.
Okay, sometimes I wonder.
Okay. Who would like to move it?
Move it.
Second.
And on R4, Mr. Carroll.
Aye.
Mr. Galais. Mr. La Palusa.
Aye.
Mr. Perez.
Aye.
Ms. Nadrowski.
Aye.
R5, I received nothing on, so I gather we're going to withdraw that. R6 is moved by the council president, which is advertising for bids for the peninsula at the Bayonne Harbor Port Access Road, and through the New Jersey Department of Transportation's Local Freight Impact Fund Award, and it's extending the award bid date to June 30th, 2022.
Move it.
Second.
And on that resolution, Mr. Carroll.
Aye.
Mr. Galais.
Aye.
Mr. La Palusa?
Aye.
Mr. Perez?
Aye.
Ms. Nadrowski?
Aye.
R7 authorizes the mayor and city clerk to execute a second amendment to agreement number CY 21037 with Chasen, Lamparello, Malone, and Capuzzo for the professional legal services to represent the city in the state tax court as tax appeals attorney. It's in-
Move it.
Second.
And that's R7. On R7, Mr. Carroll.
Aye.
Mr. Galais.
Aye.
Mr. La Palusa?
Aye.
Mr. Perez?
Aye.
Ms. Nadrowski?
Aye.
R8 is authorizing the mayor and or his designee to execute a settlement agreement and withdraw of the hearing request in the matter of the City of Bayonne Port Terminal Boulevard in connection with the alleged violations of the New Jersey Water Pollution Control.
Move it.
Second.
And on the resolution, Mr. Carroll.
Aye.
Mr. Galais. Mr. La Palusa?
Aye.
Mr. Perez?
Aye.
Ms. Nadrowski?
Aye.
R9 authorizes a shared services agreement between the City of Bayonne and the City of Jersey City for the City of Bayonne to provide a local public health services to the City of Jersey City for a period of 4 months.
Move it.
Second.
And on that one, Mr. Carroll.
Aye.
Mr. Galais. Mr. La Palusa?
Aye.
Mr. Perez?
Aye.
Ms. Nadrowski?
Aye.
R10 is authorizing the cancellation of the unexpended balances left in the emergency appropriations for Tropical Storm Ida in the amount of $53,178.41.
So move.
Second.
And on that one, Mr. Carroll.
Aye.
Mr. Galais.
Aye.
Mr. La Palusa?
Aye.
Mr. Perez?
Aye.
Ms. Nadrowski?
Aye.
R11 amends agreement number CY 22-008 with NW Financial to include an additional scope of services and increase said agreement by an additional $150,000, making the total amount not to exceed $225,000.
Can we find out what the additional scope of services are?
Centering around the examination of the financial agreements and proposals put in by developers. Remember, this is like the We Miss Joe Nichols contract, because we used to have our tax assessor do the analysis of these things for us. We've opted to go to a third party. It's the people that we retain to do our financial analysis on other matters. I know with Togus and Duke Realty, and we had 4 or 5 financial agreements that came in that we had closed session about, so that we understand what the city's exposure is and what the financial, I think 2 months ago when we had a closed session, that's the kind of work that they're performing. They're analyzing each of the financial agreements to.
So is that still based on an hourly rate too?
Yeah.
then? Okay, and who was doing it before them?
Nobody.
Joseph G. Nichols.
Who hasn't been here in
Right.
years?
But that 150 isn't only for pilot,
No.
pilot work. And I think if it was explained at our caucus meeting, I asked this question, Donna was here for caucus meeting, but I thought a large sum of it was related to the long-term control plan. 100,000 of that was related to the long-term control plan. I don't know where we stand on that, because we were working as a group, a regional plan, and it's for multiple cities, and I thought there was going to be some way for us to be getting reimbursed back, because we're paying for all the financial analysis being done for all the cities involved, whereas I believe there were 5.
That's 2/3 of this amount, the additional
Yeah.
amount, so.
And I can tell you that I talked with Mike Witt from PVSC yesterday, along with John Armstrong. I think next week they're going to try and have another of the localities, municipalities are going to sit again it has fallen to the wayside because of two or three, it's all about the interceptor, I think, that
Yes.
the other towns are
But
arguing about.
I do know a lot of the analysis done up front by Dennis for this was done when there was 5 players at the table, for some reason, because we recommended Dennis to be the one that the regional team would use, we got stuck paying the bill. But it wasn't only our work. And my understanding on those calls were that we were going to be getting a fair reimbursed, we would only be paying 1/5 of the bill, not the whole bill. And I don't know if that ever happened.
I don't think we were reimbursed yet. I'll talk to the group when we meet next week.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of these towns have a lot more money than us. They should be paying us. Okay.
At least their portion. You're
Yeah, at
right.
least their portion. We're paying for 5 towns, we're 1.
And who would like to move it?
Move it.
Second.
And on R11, Mr. Carroll.
Aye.
Mr. Galais.
Aye.
Mr. La Palusa?
Aye.
Mr. Perez?
Aye.
Ms. Nadrowski?
Aye.
And one addition that we knew was coming is authorizing the mayor to take any and all actions and to execute any and all documents necessary to effectuate the Food Truck Festival to be held Saturday, May 7th, from 12 to 7 p.m.
Move.
Second.
And
I checked the dates on these. There's, it looks like 4 weeks in a row, even though some of them are on Sundays. You got Palm Sunday, April 10th. April 17th is Easter. April 24th is Eastern Orthodox Easter. April 30th is that Earth Day cleanup that we're doing. So May 7th, I think we did it April a couple years ago, was the last one. So I guess trying to keep it close to spring like that.
And it's also the day we'll be doing early voting in town.
Yeah.
So we'll be having a festival and early voting on the same day.
People be out and about.
Yeah, so on the Food Truck Festival, Mr. Carroll.
Aye.
Mr. Galais.
Aye.
Mr. La Palusa?
Aye.
Mr. Perez?
Aye.
Ms. Nadrowski?
Aye.
And with nothing else, I will take a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
A motion to adjourn, Mr. Carroll.
Aye.
Mr. Galais. Mr. La Palusa?
Aye.
Mr. Perez?
Aye.
Ms. Nadrowski?
Aye.